Hi, welcome back guys. This is your friend, Fanfiction Guy. Back with amazing fanfiction. This is the series of What If Deku Had Nature Manipulation Quirk. Now before starting, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. Izuku's POV. I was walking back home after school since Kaken threw my hero notebook out the window. It took me some time to find it. I eventually found it in the pond. Just as I passed an alley, I was dragged into the alley by a green goo of some sort. Don't worry, I'm just hijacking your body, the sludge said as I started to squirm. I felt tears fall down my cheeks as the sludge villain started to block my mouth. Calm down. It'll only hurt for about 45 seconds, then it will be all over, the villain said, an evil look in his eyes. I started to black out at the lack of air. As my vision faded, I heard a familiar voice and a familiar line. Do not worry, for I am here. That was all I remembered before blacking out. After what seemed like a few minutes, I managed to come back to my senses. I looked around to see All Might staring at me. I started fanboying and asked him to sign my notebook. After signing my notebook, he turned, making his way to leave. "Wait," I said as All Might got ready to leave. He looked back at me. "I'm sorry, young one, but I have to go," he said, jumping. Before I knew it, I was hanging on his leg, floating loosely in the air. He looked at me shocked as he tried to shake me off. "If I fall from here, I'll die," I yelled, fearing for my life. "Oh, that's true." He trailed off. He sighed, landing on a roof of a tall building. I got off of him and asked him to hear me out for a few moments. "Did you think I can become a hero without a quirk?" I asked, catching him off guard. "I'm sorry, kid, but I have to go. I do not think that you can be a hero without a quirk. It's dangerous and there isn't quite much a quirkless person can do to someone with a quirk." All Might frowned, shaking his head. With that, he jumped away. I stood there, tears falling down my face once again. I laughed bitterly as I wiped away my tears. "Yeah, how foolish of me to even dream of becoming a hero," I mumbled, slowly trudging down the stairs. Just as I got out of the building, I heard a lot of screams coming from the street. I ran towards the commotion, seeing many people huddled around. I scurried my way past other people, getting to the front. There, I saw the same sludge villain from before with a hostage as heroes tried to stop him. And the hostage was Kaken. I heard other people talking about how All Might had caught the villain. I remembered how he scooped the sludge into a bottle. This is all because of me. If I hadn't grabbed onto All Might, this would have never happened, I thought, staring at Kaken with horror. I need to help him. No, I'm quirkless, I wouldn't be able to do anything against that villain. I'll just get in the way. I'm so useless. I cried as I ran away, all the way home. I slammed the door open, closing it again to go to my room. "Izuku sweaty, are you home?" I heard my mom's voice from the kitchen. "Why's mom?" I said, weakly as I closed the door to my room. The day of the entrance exam. I sighed as I gloomily looked at the fake city. "Go!" a voice boomed. All the students stood there while I ran off. Since I needed a head start, I ran as fast as I could to the nearest group of robots. I was very determined to attack, but when I got closer to the robots, all of the adrenaline drained out from me. I stood there, wide-eyed with fear, as the robots approached closer. Just then a laser shot them away. I turned to see a boy with yellow hair and a weird type of gear on his stomach. "Two bet will make a fine team with you as a bait. But I don't think I'll see you anytime soon," he said, running off. He's right, I can't become a hero, not like this, not without a quirk, I thought, slowly walking back to the entrance of the fake city. I give up. I wasn't supposed to be here to begin with. This is a place for heroes, not a quirkless wannabe like me. I exited the city as tears fell down my face. I fell down to my knees and sobbed. Why? Just why? I yelled in anger and sadness. Why? Time skip. I was back at home in my room, covered by my blanket. I stared blankly up at the ceiling, questioning my existence. My dried tears had made a print on my face. My eyes were puffy and red. It stung from all the crying. I knew my mom was worried. No matter how many times I told her that I was fine, She's still worried about me. I swear she knows me all too much and she's the only one I have. I turned as I closed my eyes to sleep, just a tiny spark of hope living inside me. Hoping that maybe I had a quirk. Maybe my dream can come true. Just maybe. Izuku's POV. As I woke up, I felt a pain in my head. I stumbled my way to the restroom as my breathing started to become uneven. When I looked at the mirror, I was shocked. Instead of the normal emerald eyes that I used to have, a pair of deep, gold orbs stared back at me. My hair was no longer green but instead white. Not only that, I had a pair of white ears and a white tail. As my breath steadied, I noticed the small details. I had a few red marks on my face, small fangs sticking out of my mouth. I screamed in horror. What happened to me? What happened to you? Mom screamed as she stared at me in shock. That's what I'm asking you. I yelled. Mom stared at me and sighed. Let's go see a doctor, Mom said, shaking her head. No, I said, backing away. You don't want to. Please, Izuku. We won't know if you're in danger or not. Mom said, a concerned look plastered over her face. I stayed silent for a moment, moving a step back. Then I hesitantly nodded my head. Fine. I mumbled. Let's go. Thank you, Izuku. Mom smiled, dragging me to the kitchen. This is your breakfast. After you eat, we can go see the doctor. Time skip. After I finished eating breakfast, my mom and I went to the doctor. Mrs. Midoriya, your son seems to have developed his quirks, a bit late. In short, he's a late bloomer. The doctor said, looking at my mom. Quirks? My mom asked. It seems that he has more than one quirks, 3 in total. We don't have a name for these quirks, but you can register it after reading this file. The doctor said, handing me a few pieces of paper. I do recommend buying a quirk-canceling bracelet for now, since he probably won't have control over his quirk. The doctor said. Or maybe a quirk-weakening bracelet until he gets used to his quirk. I never heard of it. I mumbled. That's because we only just created it. Some researchers and I was able to finish 2 quirk-canceling bracelets and 3 quirk-weakening bracelets. The doctor explained, turned towards me. My mom and I said, although we didn't want to sell it to anyone yet, we'll give you 2 of them for free since you really need it. The doctor smiled at me. I smiled back. Here, the black one is the quirk-canceling bracelet. The white one is the quirk-weakening bracelet. The doctor said, handing me 2 bracelets. You can come later in the week to register your quirk after you've read the files. Thank you. We'll get going now. My mom said, giving the doctor a small smile. Time skip. When we came back home, I took a quick shower before reading the files. First, type emitter. Quirk description. The user can communicate with animals/bugs and control them. The user can also manipulate the basic elements, water/ice, fire, earth, and air. Activated, the user's hair and eyes will glow. Drawbacks. When the controlled animal gets hurt, the user will feel 1/3 of the pain. The user will get major migraines if not being careful. Type mutant. Quirk description. This quirk allows the user to shapeshift and brainwash other people. The user can fly, create illusions, and control light, darkness, time, and spirits when using this quirk to its full extent. The user can teleport to anywhere they want and travel to or create different dimensions. The user will get white hair and gold eyes when using this quirk. The user will also gain fox-like features and enhanced senses and abilities when using this quirk. Can show or hide the ears and tails when using this quirk. Drawbacks. When brainwashing someone, the user has to be in a 30 kilometers radius from them or the effect will fade away. The user can only brainwash 15 people at a time. When overused, the user will faint and turn into a full Kitsun/fox. Type emitter. Quirk description. This quirk allows the user to create crystals and weapons out of them. The user can harden his/her body parts with crystals. When this quirk is in use, the user will have small crystals surrounding him/her in a thin layer of a protective shield. When someone comes near, the crystals will attack the person if the user gives order to. Drawbacks. When overused, the user will become very tired and sick. The user may faint and cough blood. That's cool. I guess I should name them I can ask my mom to register it with me next week. I muttered, writing some names I thought of for my quirks. Izuku honey, come on and eat. I made your favorite katsudon today. I heard Mom say from my bedroom door. Okay, just give me a second, I said, smiling at her. She nodded, leaving me in my room. I'm going to name the quirks, Nature's Force, Kitsun and Crystallis, I said, writing it down in my quirk journal. I can become a hero now. Izuku's POV. As I stared at the ceiling, laying on my bed, I thought of a great idea. I don't need approval from All Might to become a hero. Actually, I'm not even going to be a hero, I said, sitting up from my bed. I'm going to be a vigilante, that's what. As a vigilante, I can help people without a hero license. I smiled happily as I skipped to living room. I saw my mom sitting on the couch, watching the news. Hey Mom, I'm going out, okay? I said, rushing towards the door. Where are you going? To the clothes store. Yeah, the clothes store, I said, putting on my shoes. Oh okay. Come back before noon. My mom smiled at me. Okay, I said, shutting the door. As I was walking towards the clothes store, I saw Kaken walking to UA. Guess he got it? Well, good for him. But I'll prove him wrong. I'm going to prove him that I'm not useless, I said to myself, continuing my walk to the clothes store. Once I reached the quirk clothes store, I looked around, looking for clothes that will have a resistance to my quirks. Since all of these are not my style, I guess I could just buy the fabric and make my own clothes, I mumbled. I already made a design for my hero costume, so I just need to make it. After looking around for the right pieces of fabric, I soon found the ones I wanted. I bought them and quickly returned home. Mom, I'm going to be working on something, so please knock, I yelled, running into my room. Okay, sweetie, I heard her say. I hummed and turned on music as I started working on my hero costume. I guess you can call it a vigilante costume. By dinner time, I finished half of the costume. I made sure to hide it before my mom could see it. Izuku sweetie, what were you doing? Mom asked. Well, I was just looking at clothes, thinking about what it would feel like to be a hero. I lied, smiling as I ate my dinner. I see. My mom smiled as she listened to me. Mom, can I not go to school? I asked, reluctantly. What? Is there something wrong? Just worried. No, nothing's wrong, it's just that since I already finished most of the math stuff and I know everything I'm supposed to, I just thought I could stay home and train. I laughed, awkwardly. I guess you could, you indeed know everything you need to, and if you need to learn anything else, I could buy books for you. My mom mumbled. She sighed then smiled. Fine. Only until you master your quirks. If everything goes well, I won't send you to school until college. Thank you, Mom, I said as I rushed to my room. Once I was in my room, I resumed my work of my costume. I finished after a few more hours. It was 11 p.m. by now, which meant I had to sleep. I sighed, lazily dragging myself into the shower. I took a quick shower and changed into comfortable clothing. After that, I plopped onto the bed and covered myself in the sheets. Slowly and surely, I felt myself drift off to sleep. The next day, after I woke up, I changed into comfortable gym clothes. Then my mom called me for breakfast. Thanks, Mom. I love bacon and eggs, I said, stuffing my face. She smiled back and we continued to eat in peace. Mom, I'm going to go jogging for a while. I'll be back by 6 p.m., I said, running outside. Okay, sweetie, just don't overwork yourself, my mom shouted. I waved as I ran towards the park. Okay, I just need to find a place to practice, secretly, I mumbled as I wandered around the park. After a few moments of searching, I found the perfect place. I should start with Crystallis first. Don't want to hurt anybody with crystals by accident, I mumbled as I tried to activate my quirk. Nothing happened. You know what? I'll start by trying to activate my quirks first. I sighed as I sat down. It took around 30 minutes to actually see results of my training. After many minutes of focusing and trying to activate my quirks, I finally managed to activate one. I felt a hard pressure and a twitch on my head. I also felt something grow from my tailbone. As I reached up to touch my hair, I felt a furry thing brush my hand. I grabbed it and noticed it was an ear. I pulled out a mirror that I brought with me just in case and saw that my hair was white and there were red marks across my face. I also had a tail and a pair of ears twitching on my head. So I guess I activated Kitsun, I said, observing myself closer. I then noticed the deep golden eyes I had. I'll need to train activating and deactivating this quirk. I sighed as I closed my eyes, focused on stopping my quirk. It worked after a few failed tries. When I reactivated it, this time I was able to do it in one try. I continued to do this until I was sure that I had full control over activating and deactivating Kitsun. I closed my eyes to rest for a bit. I opened my eyes, only to gasp at the sight of the sunset. Oh gosh, my mom's going to be upset if I get home late. I whispered to myself, running back home. I guess the only thing I was able to do today was activating Kitsun. I gasped heavily as I stopped running and started walking the rest of the way back home. After a week, I'll make my first appearance, I said, smiling as I clenched my fists. I'll practice every day for my first debut. Izuku's POV. Ring, ring, ring. I sat up, turning off the alarm. It was currently 5:30 a.m., 30 minutes before my daily morning run. I grunted as I got up, slowly getting ready for my run. I usually run to the park and the beach and back. And that's exactly what I'm going to do today. I silently closed the door as I stared up at the sky. Cloudless, still a bit dark, but still beautiful as always. Tomorrow's the day I'm finally going to start my vigilante career, I said, starting my jog. I just need to make sure my quirks are stable enough to be used. As I jogged along my usual path, I observed everything. The flower shop owner waved at me. Your morning jog? She said, laughing. Yep. Your flowers are pretty as always, Mrs. Aikido. I waved back, smiling at her. She nodded as I passed by. Soon I saw Mr. Hikura walking his dog. Hello, Mr. Hikura. Hello, Mimi, I said, stopping to pet Mimi. Mimi started jumping up and down in front of me. I chuckled as I hugged her. You're one healthy young man. On your walk as usual? Mr. Hikura joked. Yep. Well, I got to go. See you next time, Mr. Hikura, I said, waving as I jogged away from them. Time skip. I hummed along to a song, drying my hair. I took a shower after lunch. Now, it was time for me to study about quirks and train my quirks to make sure that I have control over them. I managed to master power of Kitsun and Crystallis. I just needed to master nature's force. I sat on my bed and closed my eyes, focusing on nature's force. I was able to activate and deactivate it. I was just not able to control it. After a few more hours of training and studying, it was time for dinner. Thank you, Mom. It tasted great, I said, munching on the dinner my mom made. I made it for you since you're training so hard. She smiled, watching me eat. I'm glad you like it. I love it, I said, finishing my dinner. I'll get back to training. Okay. Make sure to sleep before 11 p.m., she said while I went to my room. Got it? I said, closing my room door. Time skip. I sighed as I plopped onto the bed. I managed to control most of nature's force, just that it is unstable. I guess I'll just use the other 3 until I get nature's force completely under control, I mumbled. I'll also have to tell Mom about my plans soon. I sighed as I crawled onto the bed, closing my eyes in exhaustion. I wish I could have just have manifested my quirks at the age of 4 like everyone else. I mumbled, opening my eyes once again. But anyways, since I have my quirks now, I'm going to be a hero for everyone, quirkless or powerful, weak or strong. I smiled to myself as I thought about helping people in need. After a few more moments of twisting and turning on the bed, restlessly, I finally fell asleep. The next day, I woke up, yawning as I sat up. I jumped out of bed and put on my vigilante outfit. It was a simple green hoodie and a pair of black pants. I also put on a black mask with the word Hex sewn onto it with white thread. Although the hoodie, pants, and mask seemed normal, I made it with a special thread. It was made so that it wouldn't rip or tear apart when I use my quirks. The outfit was also resistant to other quirks dealing with physical damage. I really should tell my mom about my plans for the future. I just have to hope that she'll support me. I sighed as I trudged to the living room. Hello, sweetie. Where are you going? Mom asked. I smiled. Well, I have something I want to tell you. I scratched my neck. What is it? Mom asked. You see, I decided to become a vigilante. I said. You what? She screamed. She came up to me and started to shake me. Are you out of your mind? That's illegal and dangerous. Calm down. Hear me out first. I laughed nervously, sitting her down. I know that it's dangerous. I know it's illegal, I said, sitting down across from her. But it's the only thing that would make me happy. Please, Mom. Please let me. I'll take full responsibility. My mom hesitated for a bit and sighed. She looked at me and nodded. If that's what you want to do, I'll support you. She smiled. I've always felt bad when I saw how bad you wanted to become a hero. So I'll support you. Really? Thank you so much, I said, hugging my mom. It's the least I can do for you. She hugged back. Now go and make me proud. Okay, I'll be back by 11 p.m., I said, running outside. I'll make you proud. Izuku's POV. I jumped from building to building while I scanned the city. Everything seemed normal until I saw a girl getting cornered by two men in an alleyway. I observed them for a while and jumped down to the ground. Hello, may I ask what's going on here? I asked. I could feel my eyes glow a steady green. Get out of the way, brat. We have something to settle with that girl. A man growled. How annoying. I narrowed my eyes at the two men. I'll give you two choices, run or we can just do this the hard way. Like you can do anything. Kid, it's 2 against 1. Just leave. The other man spoke. Fine, let's do it the hard way. Seems like I can't get anything through that thick skull of yours. I sighed, giving them an bored look. I activated all 3 of my quirks, just for fun, I guess. I really didn't have a reason to do it, but I got bored. I created crystals at their feet so that they wouldn't be able to move. I made sure that they wouldn't be able to use their quirk before stepping up to them. I stared straight into their eyes, using Kitsun to brainwash them. I closed my eyes and I could feel the glow fading to a small dim light. The 2 men fell limp and I made the crystals disappear. I sighed, turning to leave. Wait. Thank you for saving me. Can I have your name? I heard the girl's voice from behind me. I turned back to look at her. You can call me Hex. I smiled. Well, hope you have a good day. I jumped away and climbed onto the near building, observing the city for a new target. Time skip. I yawned as I sat on the highest building. It was nearly 10:30 p.m. and I have already stopped 5 criminals. How tiring and sad to know that there are such people in the world. I stretched out my arm and stared at a mark that appeared on it. It suddenly appeared during the day, and whenever I used any of my quirks, it would start glowing brightly. Whenever I touched it, it would sting and disappear for about 5 minutes. I sighed and summoned 2 small kitsuns. They also appeared during the day, while I was eating my lunch to be exact. They claimed themselves to be my guardian spirits. Although they could transform into a half-human, half-kitsun or anything else, or even make themselves larger, they said they preferred being small. Akari and Akari, what should I do now? I asked them, smiling a bit as I petted them. Akari was a blue fox spirit and he had golden marks. He was the Kitsun of light, or you can just call him a Tengaku, I guess. Akari is Akari's younger sister and she is a Kitsun of darkness, or a Kukin. I guess you could practice your Kitsun powers, Akari said, lightly biting my finger. I mean, you can be so much more powerful with that. You do know that you have 11 other Kitsun guardians, right? I do. I asked. Akari face-bombed and Akari turned to me with a shocked expression. Oh, but you didn't know that? Akari screeched. I winced and nodded. She sighed. Well, there are 13 types of kitsuns: Kaze, wind; Chikyu, earth; Kasai, fire; Kawa, river; Tengaku, heaven/light; Sanda, thunder; Yama, mountain; Kukin, void/darkness; Seishin, spirit; Jikin, time; Mori, forest; Umi, ocean; and Ongaku, music. We are just 2 types of the power you possess. With more control and practice with your powers, you will be able to control every 13 powers, and in addition to that, there are other stuff kitsuns can do, so I guess you'll have those powers too, Akari said while Akari jumped onto my head. Oh, okay, I got it. I laughed. So I have 11 more guardians? Yeah, we were the only ones that came to you today because the others aren't awakened yet. They probably won't show their physical form even when they are awakened though. Akari said, yawning. You have to be more connected with your inner Kitsun or spirit, whatever, to awaken all of them. I got it. Thanks. I said, placing Akari on my shoulder. Well, let's get going. Mom's going to get mad and worried if I get back late. The next day, I woke up to see Akari and Akari sleeping on my bed. I chuckled, going to the restroom to take a shower. I came out and changed into my vigilante outfit. I woke up the 2 Kitsun spirits and gave them their breakfast. I made our lunch and placed it into a bag so that I will be able to carry it around. I ran out the house, clutching my bag after saying bye to my mom. So, I thought you guys were going to help me train my powers, I said, jumping onto a building. Well, yes and no. We can tell you the training methods and stuff, but we can't actually do it with you. You're the owner of the quirk, so we can't use our powers unless you allow us to, Akari said, turning smaller and crawling into my bag. We'll be able to use our powers only in a time of urgency or only when you allows us. The only thing we can do is shapeshift, Akari said, copying what Akari did. We'll help you later. You guys are so lazy. I huffed, rolling my eyes. Don't eat my lunch, got that? We won't. I heard their muffled voices and couldn't help but laugh. You better not. I smiled as I stared down on the city. That's the only thing I have, you know? Izuku's POV. It's been a while since I started my new occupation as a vigilante, just around 4 days I think. I've already started to gain popularity and many people call me the unknown vigilante, half Nyx. What's with the long face? Akari asked, jumping onto my head. Weren't you happy to be helping people? I guess? I mean, I don't really have anything to do other than that, and it's so boring, waiting for a problem to pop up. I groaned. When will the other guardians show up? I don't know. They only show themselves when they have enough energy, Akari said, poking her head out from my backpack. I'm pretty sure they'll come around soon. Hey, who said you could eat my sandwich? I glared at her. She stuck her tongue out and went back into my backpack. I sighed, shaking my head. Ugh. I think they're waking up, Akari shouted. I can feel it. Really? I asked, excited and nervous. Oh, wait, never mind, that was just my stomach. Akari laughed. I huffed and went back to staring down at the city. Akari was laughing on the floor while Akari was trying to stop her from eating his food. I rolled my eyes and let out a small chuckle. Oh, Akari shouted. I can feel it. Stop joking, I said. No, for real. I can feel it, Akari said, smacking my leg. Take me seriously for once. I can feel it too, Akari said, letting go of the sandwich she was eating. They're coming. I shook my head, thinking that they were planning a prank against me. But the moment I turned my head back to see the city, a blindingly bright light shone from behind me. I turned around to see 11 more of the tiny Kitsuns. Each one had a unique marking. After a while, we all got settled, but I just couldn't hide my shocked expression. My eyes were wide and my jaw probably hit the floor. I could tell that my facial expression was funny, seeing that Akari was having a hard time stifling their laughter. Time skip. It took me a while to learn their names. I doubt that I'll actually remember them. I realized that most of the Kitsuns have blue eyes. If it doesn't say the eye color, it has blue eyes. The name left to the power of the Kitsun is the type of the Kitsun, not the actual name. The name is stated in the description next to the power. Kaze, wind. Yu, a prideful and tsundere-like male Kitsun who controls the wind. He has gray and black markings and gold eyes. Chikyu, earth. Ko, a quiet and mysterious male Kitsun who control earth. He has green stripes and a dark blue circle on his forehead. Kasai, fire. Kahaku, a mischievous male Kitsun who control fire. He has red and yellow marks like Akari, but Akari has gold eyes while Kahaku has blue. He is the brother of Yanzo. Kawa, river. Yanzo, a kind male Kitsun who controls fresh water/rivers. He have dark blue stripes and markings. Sanda, thunder. Ryu, a funny, childish male Kitsun that controls electricity. He has yellow and black markings. Yama, mountain. Q, a friendly and energetic female Kitsun who controls mountains and high landscapes. She has brown and green markings along with dark brown eyes. She is the sister of Kyeko and Kid, cousin of Yanzo and Kahaku. Seishin, spirit. Masako, an elegant female Kitsun who controls spiritual magic. She has gold and gray markings and her eyes are red. Her sister is Takako. Jiken, time. Sunio, a loyal and shy male Kitsun who control time. He has gray markings and his eyes are purple. Mori, forest. Kid, a quiet and wise male Kitsun who controls forests. He has blue and green markings, along with light brown eyes. Umi, ocean. Kyeko, a nice, friendly female Kitsun who control large bodies of salt water like oceans. She has dark blue and black markings and dark brown eyes. Angaku, music. Takako, a noble and wise female Kitsun who control music and sounds. She has purple and gold markings. I ended up having to write the details down since I couldn't remember them all. So, a wimpy kid like you is supposed to be our master? You asked, a voice obviously sounding bored. I expected someone stronger. Hey, I'm strong enough, thank you very much. I glared at the small fox spirit. And besides, I can end all of you guys in less than a second. Show me some respect. What do you started? I interrupted him by creating a crystal spear and shooting it towards his neck. I stopped it not even a centimeter away from his throat and gave him a challenging smirk. You little. I think you're the little one here. I smirked even more. Never mind that, I'm joking. I'll never even think of harming you guys. You got me for a second there. I thought we were going to die. Kyeko, I think, said. She let out an exasperated sigh and everyone started to laugh. Hey, do you mind if I transform into a human? This Kitsun body is wearing me out. I don't mind, but I thought you guys liked being in the small, fox form? I asked. Well, Akari may since they're lazy as heck. It does save energy and all, but if we stay like that, our magic may die out. Takako explained. Akari are one of the higher Kitsuns, so the lower rank, which is us, we have to obey them. Higher ranks never run out of magic and their magic actually grows every day, so they don't even have to transform every now and then. Ah, that explains it. I nodded. You guys can transform, just make sure you don't get in the way when we're working. You can transform all you want when we're home. Take us home, Q said. We can stay home and help you train, and when we're not tired, we can help you out with whatever you're doing. Okay, but I can't trust you guys, I said, giving them a suspicious look. I'm getting trust issues. I'll make sure they don't do anything, Yanzo said. Don't worry. Okay, Akari. Take them home please and explain to Mom the best you can, I said. Akari, you're coming with me. I see a problem down there by UA. Follow me you guys, Akari said. She looked back at me. When will you be back? Probably before midnight. Izuku's POV. I saw a weird man standing right outside of UA. He didn't seem like a student or a staff there. I observed him a while more and then made my move. When he was about to move, I created a crystal barrier around him to stop him from moving. Who are you? He shouted, looking at me. I didn't answer. Answer me. The real question is, who are you? I asked, giving the man a questioning look. I'm sure that you're not a student or a teacher. You're not a student or teacher either. We're on the same boat here. The man smirked. He touched the crystal barrier and it disintegrated. Same boat you say. We both have different intentions and I can clearly see that. I rolled my eyes. So, why are you here? Why would I tell you? The man retorted. He glared at me with his crimson eyes. Who knows who you may be? You make everything so difficult. I groaned. Just tell me and maybe I'll spare you. Spare me? You look pretty weak. Fight me then. The man laughed. I'll make sure your death isn't boring. You asked for it? I mumbled. Don't blame me for being heartless. I got into a fighting position and the man ran at me. I dodged when he tried to touch me. I made crystals and shot it towards the man. The crystals exploded when they went in contact with him. He glared at me and ran at me once again. This time, he managed to touch me. Although it was just a little part of my upper arm that got disintegrated, it hurt a lot. I created fire and surrounded him with it. You have more than just one quirk? He whispered. Impossible, only he has that power. He ran through the fire and away from me. I ran after him, but when I turned the corner, he was no longer there. Instead, I could only see a blackish-purple smoke disappearing. Crap. I slammed my fist onto the wall next to me. I lot him. That's what you get for not taking him seriously, Akari said, poking his nose out from my backpack. You've gotten too cocky, mister. I admit that I've gotten cocky lately, but I didn't want to hurt him, I replied, pushing Akari's nose back into the backpack. I don't know, something about him, it makes me have sympathy over him. Well, think about your goal. If you lose a villain like that, I'll be so disappointed. Not only me but everyone. Akari yawned. He jumped onto my shoulder. I could scold you all I want right now, but let's get your arm healed. I'm sure Yanzo can heal you. Wait, how? I asked. I jumped to the nearest tree. Gosh. You're an idiot, Akari said, dramatically. You don't have to say that again, I said. Mood. Well, anyways, all types of kitsuns have additional powers and weaknesses according to their power type. Water-related kitsuns have to be near their natural power source in order to achieve maximum power. Fire kitsuns have to be near fire and blah blah blah. You get the idea, right? I nodded. Well, the additional powers would be the water types, for one, have healing powers. Yanzo would have a stronger healing ability though, since he's a freshwater type. Fire types have more control over fox fires. Wind types have control over weather and stuff like that, Kari said. I can give you a lesson about kitsuns, but that would take more than 2 chapters of this story. 2 chapters of what? I asked. Never mind. That wasn't important. Akari laughed. Anyways, let's go back home. I'm hungry and I need rest. You're always hungry, I shouted. I'm getting concerned because of you hungriness. You might even eat the whole Japanese population. Hey, I'm not that bad, Akari said, lightly smacking my head. Now let's go. Time skip. Akari and I managed to get back home before midnight. I ran into much more problems than I thought there would be. First of all, we almost got caught by an UA teacher. Secondly, there were pro-heroes guarding many of my routes today, due to my soaring popularity. Third, there were much more villains and commotions happening today. Last of all, Akari stopped me several times to force me to buy him food. Dude, this is so good, Akari shouted, sitting on my head as I sat behind a tree in a nearby forest. You want some? No, I'm broke. That's the last thing I'm buying you until I save more money. I glared playfully at Akari. Now be quiet. We almost got caught because of you. Fine. Jeez. Akari huffed. He rolled his eyes as he got off my head. I'll show you a quick little trick. For entertainment's sakes. That right moment, Akari was surrounded by a bright light and then he got covered by fogs. Then everything disappeared, revealing a tall, handsome male standing there. He smiled and walked towards me. Wow, I'm only tall enough to reach his shoulders? How sad. I thought I was tall, he's huge. Pay attention. The man, Akari, said. So, you could transform? I mumbled. Why did you ride on my head then? Of course, I can transform into anything I want, any age I want. This is my normal form though. I just didn't transform because, 1, I'm lazy. 2, it wastes energy and time. Lastly, just for plot's sake. He smirked. Plot sake? I questioned. Oh, nothing. He laughed. Let's go, kid. Your mom would get worried. Of course, let's go. Izuku's POV. I finally arrived back home. Akari, who had transformed back into his small form, decided to bully me once again by making me carry him back home. You're very lazy, you know that? I groaned as I walked into the house. Yes, I do. He smirked. In fact, I bet the readers are lazy as well. What are you talking about? Seriously, what's the thing about chapters and readers? I asked. You make no sense. Oh, but I do make sense. He laughed, like an idiot. Anyways, where are the others? How am I supposed to know? I glared at the small fox. I'm going to take a shower. Don't bother me. Ugh. I want a bath. A voice said. Yanzo and I want a bath. Wait, Kahaku. You can't just say that. I'm sure Master would want to take a bath first. Yando said, coming into the kitchen in the form of a child. But I want a bath. Kahaku whined, also in the same form as Yanzo. Master? I asked. What do you mean by master? You didn't know? Keed, the forest Kitsun I think, interrupted. I mean, how am I supposed to know when the only two Kitsuns that I know the most won't even explain to me what it is? I huffed, sending a glare towards Akari. Well, you see, there are many Kitsun guardians, of course in other fictional worlds, since you're the only known person to have a Kitsun, quirk thingy in this world, Keed explained. However, you're the only one who can use all of our powers. Not only in this universe, but all of the others I know of. Really? I asked. Yep, Q yelled, popping up right next to me. Well, how does this even relate to the master thing? I asked, still confused. The last person who was able to do that was the first ever Kitsun, which is the reason Kitsuns exist today, Takako said, dragging Q off of me. The first Kitsun gave orders to us that anyone related to Kitsun magic, but is not a Kitsun, shall be called master unless the person is abusive or the person just wants us to talk freely. Oh, well, if that's the case, I would like for you guys to speak freely. I don't really feel like I deserve your respect, but I would like to be friends with you all, I said, picking up Yanzo. I'll let you guys take a bath first since I haven't eaten dinner yet. Akari over there used all of my money. Really? Kahaku beamed, making me chuckle. I want to go first. Yanzo, come on. After seeing the rest of the Kitsuns follow them, I sat down with Akari, who turned into a human now. Can you tell me their ages? I am very confused, I said, biting into the slice of pizza my mom left for me. Let's see, Yanzo and Kahaku are the only two Kitsuns out of all of us that are younger than the age of 10. Kahaku is 9 and Yanzo is 8. Their powers haven't fully developed yet, so they may cause some trouble. Akari said, I'm 18 years old and Akari is 17. The other Kitsuns are all the same age as Akari. That's nice to know. I nodded. So, where's Akari? I'm sure I didn't see her go to the restroom with the others. Well, she doesn't like showering in groups. Kitsuns do that frequently in other fox form, but she sometimes likes to have her alone time. Akari sighed. I'm concerned for her, she's been that way since that incident. What incident? I asked. He stared at me for a bit. What? That's not for me to tell. I'm sure Akari will tell you once she opens up a bit more. Akari stood up. Besides, today is not the right time for me to say, see you tomorrow, midget. Hey! I faked a hurt expression. He laughed, walking towards me. I'm sorry, geez. He ruffled my hair. But you're really short. I'm tall for my age. You're the one that's too tall. I huffed in annoyance. Well, bye. He turned, leaving me here. Wake up early, or else Ryu, Kahaku, and Q are going to pounce on you the next day. Indeed, I should have woke up early just as Akari warned me. Q jumped on my stomach, Ryu stepped all over my face, and Kahaku bite my foot. I think he did it out of spite. And to think that this happened at 3 in the morning. I want sleep. You need to train. You shouted at me as I slumped over the bench. I freaking care if it's 4 a.m. right now. Get yo butt off of that stinking bench and work. I understand why you want me to train, but I gave him a small glare. You're being rude AF. What? How dare you, little? He ran at me and I merely waved my hand, eating the small fox into the air. Hey! That's my power. What the crap? Oops. I ran as fast as I could to catch the falling fox, but guess what? I failed. You ended up landing on someone's head, who got mad at him. I don't think you even gave a crap about the person. He ran at me with such ferocity and anger. It seems another fox is spiteful against me. Stop. You're creating a scene, I said, laughing a bit as I grabbed it by its collar. I sat down, setting you on my lap. I started to pet it. Your fur is very soft. Hey. You struggled to get out of my grip. I'm older than you. Show me respect. Well, I'm stronger than you, and besides I think I'm quite bigger than you. Look at how tiny you are. I laughed, teasingly crouching down beside it. You know what? You shouted, jumping up and down like a child having a temper tantrum. When I restore all of my energy and mana, I'll teach you a lesson. Mana? A voice from behind us asked. What's mana? New type of food. Bonus. When Akari breaks the fourth wall. Akari, you know, breaking the fourth wall is quite fun. I'm proud of my beautiful work. Akari, and I thought you were supposed to be the oldest. Akari, hey, what does that mean? Akari, don't just break the fourth wall out of spite. The readers are having a hard time repairing it. Akari, so? What does that have to do with me? Akari, sometimes I feel like you're just a first grader. Weren't you in high school? Akari, last time I checked, I was in 4th grade. I dropped out. Akari, are you proud of yourself? Akari, definitely. But I enjoy breaking the fourth wall better. Akari, say sorry to the readers. Akari, no. I don't give a crap about them. Why should I anyways? Coke, I know I'm younger than you, but when I said say sorry, I meant it. Author-chan, guys don't fight. Akari and Akari, shut up, Author-chan. Author-chan. Izuku's POV. Young man, you shouldn't be using your quirk in public. It's illegal, don't you know that? A scrawny, blonde-haired man asked. Oh, I'm very sorry. I just forgot and my friend here just wanted to talk to me. I let out a small chuckle. I won't use it, I promise. Okay, just be careful next time. The man sighed, walking away. Kids these days. I sat there with you jumping on top of my head. Did he really think I didn't hear that? I asked myself. Didn't hear what? You asked. Nothing. I guess it's time. I sighed bitterly. Let's go. We're leaving. Are you going to buy me food? Are we going home? You asked. No. We're permanently leaving. I mumbled. Somewhere people won't find me. Somewhere I won't be a burden to other people. Then, let's go. You have me, what's there to hesitate? You asked. Are you comforting me? I teased. And no, I'm not. Shut up, broccoli. He shouted. I laughed. Stop laughing. Okay, I'll stop. I wheezed. Please call the other foxes and tell them to come to the front of you. Sure, but why? I'll tell you later. I sighed. Go now, there's no time to waste. See you later. You jumped away, soon fading into the background. I ran towards my house and opened the door quietly. I went to my room and gathered everything that I needed. Also some stuff for the foxes. I packed them all into my bag and started to go down the stairs. I was hoping to leave without my mom knowing, but it seems as she known my plan. Son? Where are you going? She frowned. Are you leaving? Why? I smiled sadly. Mom, don't worry. I'll visit you every week. I read your notebook. Izuku, I'm sorry. Mom cried. Mom, don't cry. Promise. Whatever happens, I'll visit every few days. You better. Mom gave me a playful glare. I'll support you. You stay safe. I will. I'm just moving out because I'm scared that you'll get hurt if I stay with you. I already am getting a lot of suspicions from other people. I explained. You have to stay safe too. Don't worry about me, Izu. Take care. She gave me a hug. I believe in you. I walked to the door and stood there for a while. I gave my mom one last hug and gave her a promising smile. Bye, Mom. Time skip. I was sitting under a large tree near the UA campus. I was explaining everything to the Kitsuns and told them where we were going to live. If we want to keep a low profile, only the ones that can transform fully into a human can leave the house however they want. I said, if you can't, then you'll have to get help from someone who can. Not fair. Ryu stomped. The only ones that can do that right now is Akari, Sunio, Masako, and Takako. What about us? Have to wait until you guys are able to restore your energy and mana. I simply shrugged. You're mean, Ryu shouted. I demand you to buy me food. You're so loud. I groaned. Rude. Ryu glared at me. Fine. Do whatever you want. Who wants yakitori? I asked. Me. Ryu instantly hugged me. Please. Fine. I laughed. Let's go. You guys hide in the bag. They all hopped in eagerly and I carried them to the new house we were going to stay at. I went to buy some food that the Kitsuns wanted to eat and went back. When I returned, they were waiting for me patiently. They remind me of puppies. I let them eat and went to sort out all the stuff I had. My room was in the attic, 3rd floor, so it would be easier for me to just jump off the balcony if I had to. The attic was fairly large. I could fit in one custom-made bed, which I made from my crystallis quirk. Everything that I make usually fades away, but I managed to keep the bed. It drained a lot of my energy though. Thankfully Akari made me a mattress so I didn't have to sleep on crystals. There was a restroom in the attic, a closet that the former owner left. How kind of her. There was also a desk that the former owner left. Akari and Akari are sharing a room with me since they said they liked the attic. The Kitsun's room were on the first and second floor. Yu and Ko shared a room on the second floor as well as Kahaku and Yanzo. Ryu, Q, and Sunio shared the largest room on the second floor. There were a separate restroom for that room and the second floor had another restroom in the hallway. On the first floor, Masako and Takako shared a room, the last room in fact. Keed and Kyeko wanted to share the room with them but since the room was so small, they had to use the basement. The basement was pretty clean. We have no idea why the basement had separate rooms but they decided to have their own cozy little spaces so they each chose small rooms that were comfortable enough for them. Not too small but big enough to fit in around 6 people when there wasn't furniture. I asked them if they needed any furniture but they told me that they could make their own. I was skeptical at first but the next time I stepped into their rooms, they already had their beds and stuff ready. They said they made it out of their magic so most of them were elemental stuff like a flame bed or a water bed, earth bed, stuff like that. I like this house so much, Keith said, rolling around on the living room floor. Why is there no TV or couch? Oh, I didn't have the money to get one. I laughed a bit nervously. I'll be working at a cafe tomorrow. It has a high pay so don't worry about furniture. Akari will be staying here while Akari takes care of outside affairs. If any of you needs help, you can call me on a phone. What's a phone? Kyeko asked. It's something humans use to contact each other over long distances. I explained. I'll only give some of you guys a phone until I get enough money to buy more for you guys. Okay, they replied. I assigned the phones to certain foxes and gave them their dinner. So, while I work at the cafe, some of you guys will have to watch over the house, some of you guys will have to watch over the city. I said. Preferably, the ones that can transform should watch over the city and since there is Akari guarding the house with you guys, only around 3 of you need to stay home. I'll stay home, Ryu said, nibbling on his chip. I'll look over the city, Q said. And so on, everyone got their role without any compliant. Wait, there is a way that everyone can transform even without all of the mana refilled, Masako said. You just need to sign the contract? What contract? I asked. Whenever one of us is in danger, they can use some of your energy to transform. If you sign this contract, we can communicate mentally so we won't need a phone. Takako explained the rest for her sister. This is pretty dangerous since the energy will be drained from you and transferred to whoever needs it. That energy will become theirs. Also, whatever pain we feel or you feel, everyone that is involved in this contract will feel the pain. If any of us dies, that's another problem. But your energy is overflowing. I see no harm in this, especially since your mana and energy is recovering every single second. I've never seen this before but mana usually takes a long time to recover. There isn't much chance of this contract being that painful or dangerous. Masako frowned. You're just so different. Thanks? I'll take that as a compliment. I laughed. Well, are you going to sign the contract or not? Izuku's POV. Are you going to sign the contract or not? I will. I sighed. But where's the paper? This contract can't and will not be signed on paper. Kari said. This is a spiritual contract. We will need your blood and something to make our oath on. If the object breaks, then that means our contract is over and that we will no longer be bound to each other. What my brother said is true, Akari said. But the object of our oath will disappear once we all agree on the contract. It will only reappear in times of danger or when the leader of our contract summons it. The object of our oath will hold most of our energy and powers so when it is broken, all the energy will go back to the owner of the object. Kyeko said. So, this means that either when we die or if the object breaks, we will no longer be connected to each other and you will gain all our powers and our energy. This is a dangerous contract, whether you're Kitsun or not. I agree on the contract. I said. We're all in this together, right? Together? Really? Masako asked. Really? I nodded. Are we going to sign it or not? We're in, the Kitsun said. So all we need is my blood and an object of our oath? I mumbled and the Kitsuns nodded. I know. We can use this necklace that I got as my congratulations gift from my mom. Okay, let's get this started, Q said. This might take a while. Afterwards, you might be able to move, you might even stay in coma for a while. It'll be okay. I trust you guys that you'll take care of me. I smiled. I handed Ryu the necklace. Here, tell me what I have to do. Time skip. The contract process was truly long and painful. The Kitsuns all had to get in a circle around me. They had to chant a certain spell in their ancient language. They then signaled for me to drop my blood onto the necklace and they started to chant again. That whole process went on for around 2 hours. On repeat. I did literally nothing but drop my blood. Just how boring is that? Anyways, they soon finished their chanting and the contract was sealed. My necklace disappeared and we got a mark on our forehead. Well, no. I got my mark on my forehead and the Kitsuns got this weird necklace with a jewel in the middle. But all of our mark/necklaces had the same fire shape. Kahaku said that the mark will only be visible to the people who signed the contract and that it would help the contract members locate each other and teleport or something like that. Well, I'm leaving to go look over the city. Don't do anything rash. I warned the small foxes before leaving the house. If you need anything, tell me. Okay. I heard the Kitsun's voice in my head. So the speaking part in italics are conversations in their mind. Oh, I want sushi for dinner. Kahaku's voice rang in my head. Fine. I chuckled to myself. I slowly walked into a quiet alleyway and jumped onto the nearest building after changing into my vigilante form. The moment I stepped onto the top of the building, I bumped into something. I felt my heart race, thinking that it was a person or a hero, but when I looked up I saw Akari laughing his butt off at me. What's that funny about bumping into a wall? He has a problem. I sighed and smacked the Kitsun. He really gets on my nerves sometimes. He continued to laugh and I even went as far as to threaten to throw him off the building. Hey, you're mean. He glared at me as he tried to kick me. I'm stronger than you, you know. Prove it. I threw the Kitsun at the wall and ran oof to a different building. This chase went on for a while, with Akari chasing me. I was just checking on the city and other people, occasionally helping the people who needs help. I honestly forgot about the contract and the Kitsuns randomly started popping up next to me. Hey, we want to help too, Ko said, bouncing up and down on my head. Okay, we'll split up. You and the other Kitsuns take the other half of the city, I'll take the lower, I said, racing around the alleyway to get away from the pro-heroes. Go now. They're after me and I can't risk having you guys caught too. They nodded and began leaving one by one, and as I turned another curve, they became little figures. Soon they disappeared from my sight and I turned my focus on getting away from the police and the pro-heroes. I climbed the closest building, hoping that would stop them from chasing me. The moment I stepped onto the top of the building, my heart dropped. I bumped into someone and I was hoping that it would be another one of Akari's prank. This isn't funny, Akari, I said, mostly to calm myself. I slowly looked up. In front of me was an irritated hero, Eraserhead to be exact. I said, backing away a bit. I think I got the wrong building. My fault. Sorry. It was an honor to meet you, but I have places to go. So, bye. The moment I turned back, there were the bandage-like things wrapped around my torso. Don't even try your tricks on me. Half-nicks. Izuku's POV. Crap. I mumbled, following Eraserhead. Be quiet, he said, dragging me to the office of UA. He literally did with his scarf. I promise not to run away, you can let me go. I sighed. I don't trust you, Eraserhead replied. I understand. I shrugged, letting out a bored yawn. Who would trust a vigilante? Your fans seem to. Eraserhead huffed, looking back to send me a irritated look. Don't test my patience, kid. What did I do? I scoffed. Rude. We're here, wait outside. He sent me a glare. That depends on my mood. I mumbled, sending his figure a glare too as he closed the door behind him. I waited for a few moments. I even considered running away if I'm being honest here. But I felt like I would be cheating myself, so I just decided to call the Kitsuns and tell them about my situation. Maybe they would bail me out of jail if I get arrested. Actually, considering them, I don't think they would. I sighed and the halls slowly filled with people. Students and staffs gave me weird looks, mostly admiration or shock. Soon, Eraserhead came back out again and pushed me into the office. Inside, I was met with a bunch of pro heroes and a mouse, dog, or bear thing. Even All Might was there. The one who thought I couldn't be a hero, maybe he'll think different. Oh, the half-nicks. You do know why you were captured, right? The mouse, dog, bear thing said to me. I nodded, not really paying attention. We expect you to give us your attention to us and show respect, young man. All Might said. I guess I'm at my rebellious phrase? I said, shrugging it off with a light chuckle. Everyone looked at me with a weird look. What? I don't understand how you are so calm when you're in a situation like this. Eraserhead said. I don't think I have anything to lose here. I sighed, averting my gaze. Well then, we'll give you an offer. The mouse, dog, bear thing said again. I'm the principal of UA. My name's Nizu and I'll give you a chance to become a student in UA. If you prove yourself, you'll be able to become a hero and we will support you in different ways. How am I supposed to know that you're not lying? I raised an eyebrow at his offer. I was very excited, to be honest. I don't even know you guys. We understand, but this is the only way you would be able to get yourself out of 10 years of prison. Midnight calmly stated. I would assume that you are smart enough to choose the better decision? Of course I am. I laughed. I may have dropped out after middle school, but I know was right and wrong. So, I will accept your offer. Well thought. You'll be going to this school starting from next week? Cementos replied. We'll provide your uniform and hero costume if needed. And you will be living in the UA dorms from now on. UA had dorms? I looked up. We were thinking on how to keep an eye on you and the only reasonable decision was to build a dorm. Eraserhead said. It would benefit both the students and us in many ways, so we took this opportunity to make one. Okay, I'll be taking my leave. I have business to attend to, I said, attempting to get up. Keyword attempting. Not so fast. Eraserhead said, wrapping me with his scarf thing again. You haven't listened to our whole deal. Huh. You aren't allowed to leave UA without permission from a UA staff member. Present Mike said. You aren't allowed to go out at night no matter what. All Might spoke up. This is a rule for every UA student. Unless it's a special occasion, you are only allowed to study while being a UA student, no hero work allowed. Nizu finished. You are only allowed to use your quirk inside the UA campus and or when you are at an internship, etc. Fine, I agree on those conditions. I blurted quickly, not wanting any other requirements to get added. Anything else? No, you are free to go. Nizu said, nodding slightly as I turned to leave. We hope to have a great time with you, half-nicks. Oh, please just call me Deku. I gave them a smile before leaving. I closed the door behind me and I traced back my steps to the entrance of UA. I ran out, just to be greeted by a fluff ball getting thrown at my face. Hey, why did you throw me at this hobo? I could tell that Ryu was literally fuming. Ryo, it's disrespectful to call someone a hobo, I said, smiling darkly as I pulled him off by his tail. Let's just go back home. I sighed and the Kitsuns just nodded, understanding me when I said so. They quietly followed me back home, making sure not to do anything stupid. Once we were back home, we sat in the living room and awkward silence filled the room. So, what did they say to you? Yonzo asked. I looked away. They're going to get mad for sure. What is it? Kahaku screeched. You're making me nervous. I got caught by the pro heroes? What? Izuku's POV. Akari started scolding me for getting caught. The others just watched and laughed at me while I was getting scolded. I'm sorry, Yeesh. I glared at Akari, flicking his forehead. And I thought Mum's scolding was bad. Akari gave me that "what did you say?" look, so I kept quiet while he rambled on. Soon he sighed and stopped, telling the other Kitsuns to go back to their rooms and get their stuff ready. You know, you have to consider us. Akari frowned. We get that you like your vigilante work, but you have to think about us too. What if something bad happens to you and we have to live all by ourselves? I'm sorry, I mean at least I didn't get arrested. I smiled sheepishly, earning a glare from him. Just be careful, I'll go and sell this house, give me the account thingy. Akari replied. I gave him what he needed and watched him transform. He left without any other world, so I just decided to go and pack my stuff. Akari was already in there, packing most of the stuff. Hey, Izuku, she called. I turned towards her. That's new. I huffed. What? You want me to call you Idorku? She laughed at her own lame joke. I stared at her with a dead look. You're lame? Laughing at your own joke? Hey. She threw a pillow at me. Anyways, you need to summon us back into our dimension. I don't think I explained a lot about this to you, but when you signed the contract, you were granted the ability to open gateways to other dimensions. Cool, I replied, packing my clothes. So, you'll have to open a gateway for us to go back to our original dimension since we can't all fit into your dorm thing, she said. And how exactly do I do that? I asked. You just need to summon your necklace that we made an oath over. Akari replied with a yawn. After you summon your necklace, you just need to imagine a gateway for it opening. How do I even summon the necklace? I asked, getting annoyed at her very simple explanation. Touch the center of your chest, use your quirk, and think of summoning your necklace like how you create stuff with your crystallis quirk. Akari demonstrated. Oh, and about your other quirks, they won't last for long. Huh. I glanced back at Akari. She simply shrugged. I glared at her and did as she told me to, and I managed to summon my necklace after a few failed attempts. After all the Kitsuns packed their stuff up, I called them to the living room and told them that they were going back to their dimension. They agreed and calmly went back. Akari came back after a few moments, telling me that the house was put on sale and whenever someone was to buy it, they will let me know. Okay, so did you pack your stuff? I asked him. He nodded. Good, because you're going back to your dimension? Oh, Akari went to get his stuff, returning with a gigantic bag. Just how much stuff do you have? I asked. Just a few. He gave me a weird stare. I'm sure the others had more. I just nodded and opened the gateway for him. He took his bag and stepped in. I closed the gateway, sighing as I took my stuff and walked back to UA. I saw Eraserhead at the front of the school, waiting for me. I waved at him, receiving a small huff from him. He led me to the dorms. So, from next week you are to participate as a student? He explained. This is the first year's dorms. We've read over you basic information files and you will be in my class, 1A, call me Mr. Aizawa from now on. I nodded, getting the dorm keys from him. Your room is on the 3rd floor and we have already contacted your mother, he said, getting ready to leave. Anything else? No. But how did you know my mom's contact? I asked. We have our ways. Mr. Aizawa stared at me. Anyways, the students are probably waiting for you in the dorms. They were pretty excited to know that the famous Vigilante half-Nix would be joining them. Oh, nice to know. I was about to open the door when Mr. Aizawa called out. Even that kid was happy to know that you were coming, he sighed. Be careful. He has a really bad temper. Katsuki Bakugu? I hummed. How did you dash? I have my ways. I smirked, cutting him off. Well, Tardus. I opened the door and shut it behind me before Mr. Aizawa could say anything else. I didn't really think about the students since I didn't see any of them. I was about to go to my room but I heard a loud crash as I climbed the stairs. Oh. Half-Nix is here. He looks fairly built. Totally different than what I was expecting. He looks so innocent. I honestly was expecting a badass-looking person. He looks cute though. I stared at the large glob of people laying on the floor. I'm assuming that they fell down from their hiding spot or something. I scoffed and continued my way to my new room. I could hear their voices die down as I went up. I turned around and gave the girls a small wink and sent them a smirk. Well, ladies, I'll see you tomorrow, I said, waving to everyone. I want to get some rest, you know? How about I treat you to dinner someday this week? They stared at me with their jaws wide open and I turned back, continuing my way to my room. This is going to be so fun. I thought. I should repay them back, shouldn't I? Izuku's POV. It was the 2nd day since I got here, a nice Sunday afternoon. I'm going to start attending classes starting tomorrow. I've already gotten closer to most of the kids that I'm going to be classmates with. The Kitsuns didn't have much problems either. Although they don't like to show themselves to others, they have gotten pretty comfortable in their own space, or well, dimension, so I didn't have much to worry about. Denki and Mineta, I think, they were asking me how to flirt with girls. You want to see how to flirt with girls? I asked. They nodded. Then go to Google, search up how to flirt with girls? No. We want to learn from experienced people. Denki said. What makes you think that I'm experienced? I laughed. I'm just merely too irresistible. Mineta looked at me with a weird face. Dude, that's true. WTF. It was a joke, I thought, nearly spitting out my orange juice. That's nice to know. Denki and Mineta sighed, shuffling away from me as I stuffed the last bit of toast into my mouth. I watched them go look up how to flirt with girls on Google. They are really stupid when it comes to these. I think they're just stupid though. I chuckled and tapped them on the shoulder. Watch and learn, I whispered, pointing towards the group of girls in the kitchen. They nodded and followed me as I walked up to the girls and flirted with them. They started to blush and I came back. Beat that, you dimwits. I smirked as I pushed Denki and Mineta towards the girls. I watched them as they got beat by the girls. I kind of feel bad for them. Denki glared at me as I laughed. I'm pretty sure Todoroki laughed as well. Just a small smile but still. Well, anyways, what do you guys do in class? I asked, plopping myself onto the couch next to Todoroki. It seems pretty boring. Just a bunch of lectures and not any hands-on training. I don't know, Kirishima said, coming down from upstairs. I mean, after coming to UA, my skills have improved but I still lack in experience. We continued talking about our own experiences until Mr. Katsuki Bakogu came. King Deku, he yelled once he saw me. Rowdy as usual. Fight me one-on-one. Quirkless wannabe. Well, haven't changed. I rolled my eyes. You should get rid of that pesky attitude of yours and then fight me. Your pride will get the best of you. You, Kaken yelled. I'm going to end you. Fight me. I dare you. I retorted. Let's show the whole class how I beat your ass. Whoa. Zero shouted. Fight, 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 fight. I snapped my fingers and everyone was teleported to a different dimension. Not the realm of the Kitsuns though. What the F***CK? Kaken screamed. Welcome to my world. I laughed, stretching my arms out. I come here sometimes when I feel very stressed. Do you like it? It's also my training place. Whoa, was all that they said. Come on, Kaken. You said you wanted to fight. I said, smiling at him innocently. Too scared? He glared at me. Cat got your tongue? I smirked. Let's fight. I'll show you how much I'm worth. After all those years of bullying, I've gotten stronger. I closed my eyes and opened them. I felt my heart pulsing and I could feel the power surging through my veins. I flicked my arms to create seats for my classmates and faced Kaken again. He dashed at me but I dodged, grabbing his arm and pinning him down. I smashed his head down to the floor and got up, leaving him coughing on the floor. I brushed my clothes clean and started walking to the audience. But before I even reached it, I could feel Kaken behind me. I dodged, letting him fall forwards. I restrained him with some water and yawned. I turned my back towards the class and clutched my head. I could feel my head pound against my skull and my breath become uneven. Ever since I started using my quirks, my body started to get weaker. I should refrain from using them too much. It's a serious problem. It's getting worse. I could taste a metallic, salt-mixed flavor slowly filling my mouth. I felt my knees start to give away and the sharp pain in my head made everything much worse. Not to mention that everything seemed to be spinning. This had happened for a few days now. I went to the doctor before and he said that if I continue to use my quirk without restraint, my powers are going to devour my body and that my health will surely get worse by day. The amount of stress is also another factor. I shook my head and took out some pills. I summoned some water and swallowed the pills along with the water. It took me some time to calm back down, but the blood stopped swelling up anyways. I turned back to my classmates and gave them a small smile. Let's go back, shall we? I tilted my head. Oh, and you should know when to give up, Kaken. Everyone stood there, speechless. I snapped my fingers once again and we were back in the living room of the dorm. I waved as I yawned, turning to leave towards my own room. I'll be looking forward to studying with you all, I said before climbing the stairs. I would expect Class 1A of UA's hero course to be pretty strong. At least from what I've heard, I would expect Kaken or Todoroki to surprise me. Izuku's POV. I rolled my eyes as Present Mike explained all the basic grammar stuff to us. I perched my head on my palm and looked outside. Honestly, life at UA is pretty boring. Well, I have to say, making fun of Kaken is pretty fun to do. Being popular is also a pain. Everyone comes up to me and keeps on holding me captive to their stupid questions. Do they even have brains? I slowly tapped on the table and a few moments later, I saw a tail swishing around under my desk. I looked down to see Akari eating some buns I brought for my snack. I glared at him but he just stuck his tongue out. I stepped on his tail out of spite and he did the one thing I told him not to. He screamed. His voice rung throughout the classroom. Everyone turned towards me. What the F***, CK? Kaken yelled. Oi, de. Stay quiet. Speak for yourself. I rolled my eyes again. I think at this point, my eyes would have already rolled to the back of my head. Midoriya? What was that? Present Mike asked, touching his glasses. Nothing. I sighed. It wasn't nothing. I heard it clearly. Present Mike huffed. He smiled again. And I liked it. Whoever shouted like that should get a prize. A prize for what exactly? Yaoyorozu asked. The Best Screaming Awards. Present Mike simply said. I wonder how he's a teacher here. Other than the fact that he's a hero, his intelligence level seems to be hitting the bottom of this earth. Ooh, Akari jumped out from under my desk. That idiot. I won a prize. What the F*** CK is that? Kaken screamed as Akari jumped onto him. Get him off me. Shut up, Kaken, I said, reaching over to grab the small fox. And you better behave. Fine. Akari huffed as I set him down. You're such a boomer. What did you just say? I asked. Are you deaf or something? Akari scoffed. I said that you act like a boomer. I took in a breath as I opened the window. I grabbed Akari and simply threw him outside. I shut the window and turned back to Present Mike. I'm sorry about him. Please continue. I gave him a small smile. Present Mike gave me a what the crap was that? Look but continued on with the class anyways. After class, however, he called me to the Nizu's office. Midoriya? Nizu said, staring at Akari. What is that thing? Ah, he's my Kitsun friend. No, he's my pet. I said, shoving Akari away from me. He's a part of my quirk. I'll make sure he doesn't affect others' learning process. Okay, thank you for that, but do you mind if we use him for something? Nizu asked. For what? I asked. If it's something like dissecting him, definitely not. What are you saying? Present Mike screeched. What is he? He's a thing. I nodded, drinking some tea. He's definitely a thing. No, I'm not. Akari said, slapping my leg. I want tea too, you be asterisk. Foxes aren't supposed to have tea. I flicked his forehead. Be a nice fox and behave. Sheesh. Akari sat next to me. You make it sound like I'm a little kid or something. Because you act like one. I gave Akari a smug look and I think that was his last nerve. Anyways, I was able to finish my conversation with Principal Nizu and Present Mike safely. Thankfully, I was able to avoid the wrath of the Great Almighty. At least that's what Akari called himself. Although, he did seem to know something that I don't, something about my quirk. It makes me quite nervous since the Kitsuns know more about my situation than I do myself. I'll have to buy him honey butter chips later on. Time skip. I soon learned that our class was going to have a little hands-on training at the USJ place. It was going to happen tomorrow. Something about rescue training, I think. Even so, I feel a bit uneasy about it. I already took my medicine. I don't think it's because of my sickness. The school bell rang and I instantly dashed towards my dorm room. The teachers tried to stop me from running in the hallways, but I need to find Akari. I met All Might along the way and he did stop me for a different reason. I wasn't really listening to him since he was talking about his quirk or something like that. Anyways, I just kind of nodded and he gave me a strand of his hair. I don't understand why, but he told me to eat it later on. I just nodded and continued on my search for Akari, and thankfully, he was waiting for me. In my dorm room. He just looked so stressed and I kind of feel bad for him. Maybe I should treat him better. I mean, it is my fault that he's going through events like these. He looked at me and gave me a cold glare and immediately jumped on me. You know, that statement about treating him better. I take that back. Hey, Akari, I have honey butter chips, I said, waving the bags of chips around. He got off me instantly upon seeing the bag of chips. Izuku, he started but seemed to hesitate. I asked, stealing a bit of his chips. You know, never mind. He gave me a sad smile and continued to eat his chips. I'll tell you later. Maybe next time. Is it important? I asked. You have to tell me if it's important. Oh, Akari nodded. I'm going to go back to my dimension for a while. To rest. I nodded, getting ready to open a gate for him, but surprisingly he opened his own gate. I'll have to ask about it later. Akari's POV. Bro, did you tell him? My sister asked. I shook my head. Hey, you have to. It's important both for us and for him. He yelled. You can't drag this out forever. Yeah, the longer you take, the worse it'll be for all of us. Ryu sighed. You said that you'll tell him for like the past few months. We can't keep on going like this. Kyeko was on the verge of crying. It hurts me to act so happy in front of that child when I obviously know what's going to happen to him. It hurts me too. I yell back. But I don't want to crush his dreams yet. I'll tell him as soon as I can. Just wait a little bit more. We'll only wait for a few more days. A week is the longest we can give you, brother. Akari said. I understand though, but fate's cruel. We just have to accept it. I nodded. I'll tell him as soon as I can. Izuku's POV. I woke up by the loud sound of the alarm clock. I slammed my hand onto it, sending it flying off the bedside table. I sat up and groaned, bracing for a punch from one of the Kitsuns. It never came. I shrugged it off, thinking that they were sleeping in for once. I decided to sleep a bit more too, since it was a Saturday. I laid back down and blinked a few times. I managed to fall asleep after shifting a little bit. Time skip. I woke up and turned to see that it was 10 a.m. I headed to the bathroom to take a shower. It only took me about 10 minutes or so, but it felt like hours. I don't know why. I felt empty. The sound of the water felt so loud, the water felt so cold. Maybe it's because the Kitsuns haven't woken up yet. A knock on the door snapped me from my thoughts. I quickly finished my shower and dried myself. Just a minute, I said, wrapping a towel around my waist. I opened the door to see Uraraka. I smiled at her and she blushed. Did you need me? I asked. Don't you know that it's not good for a sweet girl like you to come into a boy's room all alone? I am sorry. It's just that we were wondering if you wanted tea to, join us for lunch? She looked away while stuttering. You know, eating outside? Sure. I smiled, closing the door. I'll be ready in a few minutes. I heard the door close and I quickly changed into a hoodie and a pair of jeans. I reached for my necklace, but I just realized that I didn't have it on. I went back into the bathroom to see if it was there, but it wasn't. I don't think I had it on when I woke up either. I felt my heart sink when realization struck me. I lost the one object that connected me to the Kitsuns. My friends, my family. I know I had it on yesterday and that I left it on the bedside table. But no matter how much I looked, I couldn't find it. I felt like crying, but I remembered that I agreed on eating with the others, so I decided to resume my search later. But I couldn't shake of the terrible feeling I had. I went downstairs and was greeted by the others. I gave them a half-hearted smile and we talked while going to eat. We arrived at a sushi place and we ended up splitting up since we couldn't all sit together at one table. What's wrong? Todoroki said. I looked at him and he looked at me. You look like you're worried. And you're pale too? Are you sick? And no, I'm not sick. I chuckled. I just lost something important to me. I'm just upset. Oh well, I'll help you look for it. Just enjoy the moment right now, he said. He looked away and I could have sworn that he smiled at me. I guess I should. Thanks, Todoroki. I smiled back at him. And when I thought we were going to have a normal conversation, shut up, useless Deku, Kaken yelled. Oh, thank you. I laughed sarcastically. I appreciate your compliment. Shall wait. He seemed more angered than before. I sighed. I honestly never wanted him to hate me. I wanted to be friends. I wanted to smile and laugh like we did back then. I wanted to talk like normal people. I gave him a smile and continued my conversation with Todoroki. We had a nice time, to be honest. We all went to the mall afterwards and had a little shopping session. Then, we returned back to the dorms. I forgot all about the necklace. The moment we got back though, the odd, eerie silence brought me back to reality. The reality where my closest friends were gone. I thanked Todoroki on his offer of help but told him to rest and that we could search for it some other day. I sadly turned on the lights and saw a small note on the bedside table. I locked the door and read it. I was shocked at what I read. No, shocked was an understatement. I was devastated. Dear Izuku, I'm sorry for our sudden disappearance, but this was something that had to be done. I'm aware that you may have many questions and you may be very confused on what's happening. Well, we want to thank you for accepting us, but we decided to undo our contract, as it will only make everything for both you and us worse. As for why we left, it was simply because we did not like you. Farewell. Sincerely, Akari. Every single word on the note repeated itself in my mind. Have I not been a good friend? Was I too demanding? Was I being rude? Why would they just leave like that? Questions and thoughts flooded my mind. The jumbled up feelings and my tangled thoughts caused my eyes to water. Might, cool, crumbled away and I was left as a crying mess. I trusted them, I believed them. Every one of them. I loved them. They were like my family. But they just left. Why is the world so cruel? Akari's POV. Bro. I turned to look at Akari. She seemed hesitant with her words. You sure that was the right thing to do? I don't know, I replied, looking away to the black abyss. But it would have been the best for him. But I can feel his sorrow reaching out to me. Keko cried. How is that okay? You left that child heartbroken. Yeah, Akari, you should have put an actual decent explanation in that note. Yanzo sighed, shaking his head. Look, I understand that you guys feel guilty. I do too. I'm pretty sure we all do. I took a deep breath before continuing. But it's the best to cut ties when necessary. I paused, trying to calm myself down. Providing him an explanation would have caused him to look for us. We can't risk him getting hurt. I said, he knows how to move from dimensions. He'll certainly look for us if we said that we left because we didn't want to cause him any harm. I could see some of the other Kitsun nodding their head in agreement. You get what I'm saying? If he finds us, we'll all be in danger. Not only the disease that we're causing him, but he will be after him. I winced. You know how harsh he is when it comes to newbies. He has even ended some himself. It was the best thing to do for all of us. I finished. It may be harsh, but we all should face reality. Izuku's POV. For the past few days, I was utterly in shock. No matter how much I tried to deny the fact, I knew that they had left me. They were with me 1 second and gone the next. Just like that. My classmates seemed to be concerned about me, even Kaken, which was surprising. They brought me food and gifts while I locked myself up in my room. The teachers came to see me too. What a terrible person I am. Everyone is trying to cheer me up and the only thing I'm doing is being a burden. Maybe that's why they left. Because I was only being a burden. I stood up from where I was sitting on my bed, going to the bathroom. I washed my face and looked at the mirror. I was surprised at how tired I looked. There were dark circles underneath my eyes. My eyes looked so dull. My hair was much messier than before and I looked sickly pale. I looked so lifeless. I took a quick shower, changing into some new clothes. Then I packed my stuff. I was getting ready to leave when someone stopped me by grabbing my shoulder. I was a bit surprised to find someone else up so late. Where are you going, Midoriya? By the voice, I could tell it was Kirishima. Yeah, where are you going? It's very late, you know. I could hear Ida's voice too. The lights turned on to reveal all my classmates. I felt a bit of pain in the chest, but it wasn't as painful as I expected it to be. I'm leaving, I said, taking Kirishima's hand off my shoulder. If you're thinking of stopping me, don't even try. I saw some of my classmates open their mouths, wanting to say something, but they closed it again. I almost laughed at how funny that looked. They looked like goldfish. After what seemed like hours, I turned away from them and left the dorms. They didn't stop me, which had hurt me a bit, but it's much more easier this way. This time, I'm going to be an actual vigilante. The next day, I decided to start off by doing small stuff like helping people on the street, carrying stuff for elders, and saving small animals. Then, when I get enough trust from the people in the city, I'll start doing greater work, like defeating villains. I'll just have to build up from the smallest stuff. How annoying. This is going to take a long time. I sighed as I landed on the roof of the next building. I guess it could be considered patrolling the city. Since those heroes aren't going to do their job correctly, I might as well do it myself. Just in one day, I've seen 9 villains cause trouble for the citizens, and I haven't even finished patrolling half of the city yet. That's a whole lot. I have helped out a bit, even though that went against my own rules that I have set for myself. It couldn't have been helped. If I didn't do anything, the citizens would have died on the spot. I wouldn't wish for anybody to die, just because of a simple rule that I've set for myself. Other than that, what's scaring me is that fact that my quirks aren't working correctly. Only my Kitsun quirk is working. Actually, it's getting stronger, but the other 2 quirks, it's getting weaker, rapidly. And at this point, I don't think I can even use them anymore. Also, my hair would stay white and my eyes stay gold even when I haven't activate the Kitsun quirk. It's very strange. This never happened before. But thankfully, I don't have to constantly use my quirk to disguise myself. Ever since my appearance changed, permanently, nobody noticed me. My mother was the one person who did, but not many people realized that the new vigilante was me. The sudden attention about me wasn't expected nor ideal. My plan of having a peaceful debut seemed shattered, but this just makes my work so much faster. I guess it wouldn't be that bad. I needed the fame for my next actions anyways. It wouldn't be until next month until I do it, but I could still train for it. After all, defeating Overhaul wouldn't be an easy task. Akari's POV. I felt a pang of guilt flood me as I watched Izuku. He seemed so upset and shocked. Hopefully he gets better soon. I can't bear to see him like this, but it's for the best. It's the best for him and it's a best for us. Bro, you watching Izuku again? Akari asked. I nodded. Stop stalking him, dude. I'm not. I yelled back, turning away from the fox marble. Too. Akari yelled. I'm not. Too. Dash. Would you guys just shut up? You yelled. We stopped yelling immediately and you looked at us. He seemed very upset. Akari, I get that you're very upset. We are too, you said. But this is what you decided to do. And since you are the leader, you are to take responsibility for it. I know. I sighed. I just feel a bit empty. I know that staying with him is just going to hurt the both of us, but I just can't help it. I understand, Ko said, popping up from behind me. He was precious to all of us. Guys, stop being so depressing. Kyeko whined. We'll see him again anyways. He just has to pass the test, doesn't he? Yeah, guess so, but you do know how hard that test is? Takako said. I mean, don't we all have to go through that test? That's how we became guardians. Kyeko said. Izuku's probably going to go through that too. But you do remember that the new keeper is very strict about those now. Even like the newest Kitsuns gave up because of how strict the rules were. Kahaku butted in. Besides, we're the only Kitsun group without a magic Kitsun. If Izuku is to actually pass the test, he's going to live his life with us, forever as a Kitsun. Not as a human, but a Kitsun. True, everyone else has one all-round magic Kitsun in their group. I mumbled. He's not going to be able to quit afterwards. The keeper wouldn't allow it. Yeah, considering how much the keeper was observing Izuku, Akari sighed. This is the first too, a human becoming a Kitsun. Now that I think about it, we were all foxes before actually becoming a Kitsun. Are you dumb or something? You just realized that now. I mocked my sister. Oh, you want to go? Akari challenged. Square up, bro. Square up. You too, stop it, Kid said. We're only here as a small vacation. We'll have to go back to the human realm where Izuku is. That's the world that we're supposed to watch over for the rest of our terms. True. At least we're not going to some weird world like the others. Q shuddered. Let's just rest for now. Tomorrow's going to be a more complicated day. One by one, All the Kitsuns left to their resting places. It was only me and Kid. We stood quietly in front of the Kitsun marble, watching Izuku. Kid broke the silence. Why are you so fond of him? I'm very fond of him myself, but you must certainly have a different reason for it, Kid said, eyes glued on the marble. I stayed silent as I remembered the past. No big reason. I'm just thankful to have such bright light in my life, especially after all the dark events I have been through. Kid sighed. I guess we both have similar reasons. I'm thankful that you have chosen to leave Izuku when we learned about the sickness, and that we were causing it. Like I've said, it's the best for the both of us, I replied. Kid turned away, leaving me to go rest. I stared at the marble for a bit more and let out a light chuckle. Besides, I'm positive that we'll meet again very soon. Izuku's POV. I keep seeing small visions of the Kitsuns, and even in my dreams, they appear, saying that we'll meet very soon. Although I didn't trust the visions or dreams, I was really desperate. I wanted to see them again, I wanted an actual answer, and I was hopeful. I was hopeful that there was a different reason on why they left me. I was hopeful that I would be able to laugh and spend my time with them like I've always did before in the past. To be honest, I didn't live a very hard, depressing life. I had it fairly easy throughout my life. Living without a father was hard, getting bullied by Kaken was hard too. But considering how much blessings I had and how much love and happiness I got, the hardships are nothing. I'm just being a baby right now. I knew that I was just trying to deny the fact that the Kitsuns were gone, but I accepted the fact now. I felt very empty afterwards. I visited my mother a few times, but it seemed like she was getting sick every time I visited her. She was very pale, thin, and her eyes seemed lifeless. Her lips were dry and pale, they didn't have the usual color. Her hair was messy as well, and by what it seemed, I don't think her eyesight is okay either. She seemed very weak and it concerned me. I've asked her several times what was wrong and she refused to tell me. So I decided to settle in with her instead of her living alone. It would be best for me to stay with her. Anyways, today I had made an appointment with the quirk doctor to see something about my quirk. Like the only quirk that was working for me was the Kitsun quirk. The other two quirks seemed to grow weaker by day, and the crystallis quirk had already stopped working for me. It was truly weird and concerning for me. Not to mention that my appearance was changing too. My hair is starting to grow naturally white and my eyes are slowly changing into a gold color. A mark appeared on my face not too long ago, and ears, tails, and fangs are growing out. Also, my sickness has gotten better. I stopped throwing up blood, my headaches started to cease, and my body felt more energized. It was almost as if I was back to normal again. It was like the disappearance of the Kitsuns just made me into a new person. Or perhaps it was the strand of All Might hair that I ate that helped me recover from the sickness. Either ways, I'm feeling so much better now and the control over my quirk is getting better. Time skip. Hello, Dr. Susumu, I said, smiling as I opened the office door. Dr. Susumu was the head doctor of the hospital that my mother went to. He's really friendly and nice, and also knows a lot about quirks, so he often gives me checkups. I told him about the vigilante stuff and work I'm doing and he has accepted it. He feels like a family member to me and it felt nice to know that I had someone to lean on. Hello, are you here for your mother's checkup today? He asked, smiling at me from his desk. Yes, but I'm also here for a quirk checkup. I've been seeing some problems, so. I chuckled as I helped my mother sit. I frowned when she almost fell down from her chair. She couldn't even see me anymore, so my concerns are growing every day. She had hearing issues, she couldn't feel anything, and sometimes, she even forgot my name. It hurt me so much to see her like this, and I've been trying to do everything I could to help her, but not even the best doctors of Japan knew what the sickness was. Dr. Susumu has been giving her medications, which helped, but neither did he know what is wrong with her. Okay, your mother's sickness is getting worse. Dr. Susumu sighed. I can see that it's getting worse by day, and at this rate, she won't make it. Is there really no cure for it? I asked. It's not that. If we knew what the sickness was, we would have done everything to help. Dr. Susumu said. But, from every single one of the examinations that we did, it shows up that your mother is perfectly healthy. There isn't one single disease that's harming her. Then, what do you think is causing this? I asked, staring at my mother. Well, I'm not quite sure, but I've heard of quirks that make people sick. That could be the case, but the results of the medical tests show no signs of quirk problems. Dr. Susumu said, showing me the medical files. It could be that we don't know about the disease your mother has, and because of that, we can't do anything to help her. One wrong decision and it could cause much harm to her health. I understand. Thank you for helping us, though. I smiled sadly. It means a lot to us. Don't thank me, everybody would do the same thing. Dr. Susumu smiled, placing his hand on my shoulder. Now let's get to your quirk checkup. I nodded and sat in the office next to my mother. Dr. Susumu went out to get some stuff and shortly came back with a few files. He also took me to test my quirks and just a short medical examination. Once we were back in the office, he went through the files. There was a long, awkward silence, and I could see from his expression that something was wrong. Seeing his concerned expression made me feel very nervous. He opened his mouth only to close it again and sighed. He looked at me very seriously, seemingly looking for the right words to say the news. He just stayed silent for the next few minutes, which made me more anxious. Okay, is there something wrong? Am I sick like my mother too? I asked, getting tired of the silence. Dr. Susumu shook his head and handed me the files. Both the old and new ones about my quirk. He still seemed to be thinking of an easy, nice way to say this because I could see how troubled he was. In the old files, it read that I had 3 quirks. It stated the type and powers of the quirks, drawbacks, and cautions I should take just in case. In the new files, no words could express how shocked and confused I was. Dr. Susumu, this is a joke, right? I looked up from the files, staring at the troubled doctor. This can't be true. There's no way that this could be true. I'm sorry, Izuku, but it's true. I'm having a hard time figuring this out myself, Dr. Susumu said, massaging his temple. There's no possible way that it is true. Something like this has never happened before. I don't understand, I said, confusion clouding my head. I don't understand either, but you do know that the test results are true, Dr. Susumu said, trying to calm me down. I'm very sorry and puzzled to say this. I was still trying to process everything. I could read the files and I knew what it meant, but my brain decided to shut down on me. Dr. Susumu's hand grabbing my trembling hand broke me out of my trance. Izuku, you're quirkless? Izuku's POV. It's been a month since I've been classified as quirkless. I'm more confused than devastated. After all, I still can use my Kitsun quirk. It's actually working quite well. It's just the other quirks that aren't working that well. So, I've been training by myself at home with the one quirk that would work for me. I'm not sure if I should call it a quirk anymore. It's just like a part of me now. It's almost like I'm no longer a human. But then that, everything's been stressful for me. My mother's health, money issues, and even the smallest things are stressful for me. Some people have been spying on me and I can't go anywhere public without wearing a disguise because people notice my weird appearance. I sighed, pulling on a really thick, large hoodie. I put on a mask and left the house. I locked the door behind me, leaving to go to the pharmacy to buy some medicine for my mother. I really had to be careful not to get caught. Excuse me, I'm here to buy some medicine, I said, looking towards the person at the counter. For Izuku MIdoriya. The woman looked at me and asked some questions. After confirming some stuff, she nodded and went into a room. She came back not so well. Okay, we'll have your medicine ready after a few minutes, the woman said. She went back into the room, coming out after a few minutes with a bag in her hand. Here's your medicine. I paid her and left the pharmacy, going to the market afterwards. I bought some fruit and other ingredients. Then I bought a necklace for my mother, just like how she bought one for me before, the one I used for the contract with the Kitsuns. I still have the necklace, just that it's hidden away so it doesn't bring back bad memories. I walked back home, silently rethinking about everything that has happened. Although I felt like I have gotten over it, I guess I truly can't stop thinking about how the Kitsuns left me. The quirks are confusing, my mother's sickness doesn't seem to get any better, and the money issues with me not having a job and my mother getting more sick, it's just so stressful. I sighed for like the umpteenth time today and unlocked the door. It was oddly quiet, but considering my mother's condition right now, I shook it off. I closed the door behind me, locking it again, and going to the kitchen to make my mother some soup. When I finished it, I poured some in a bowl and took it to my mother's room with some water and side dishes on a tray. I also took the necklace to give it to her as a present, in hopes that it would help her keep some memories. I smiled to myself as I opened the door to her room. "Mom, I made your favorite soup," I said, looking towards my mother. "Mom?" I looked a little bit more closely, only to see that she laid on her bed, motionless. I dropped the tray I was holding and the food spilled everywhere. I walked towards my lifeless mother. Seeing her dead eyes staring into thin air made my heart shatter. I was in denial. But the moment I felt her cold hand, I knew that it was true. No matter how much I wanted to deny it, I knew so very well that she was dead. I felt tears fall down my face and soon, I was crying my heart out. I didn't even realize that I was on the floor. All I knew was that my mother was dead. The only parent that I had while growing up, the only person who supported me all the way, the one person I knew I could rely on, was now dead. And what ended me the most was that I couldn't have been the son she would have wanted for me to become. I've only disappointed her, becoming a vigilante, leaving UA, and burdening her with my personal problems. She did everything she could for me and all that I have been was a burden, and now, she's gone. "I'm sorry, Mom. I'm sorry." Akari's POV. I was staring at the fox marble. Izuku's mother had passed away and I was crying as well. I may have not known her very well, but she had treated me very nicely and like I was her own son every time we met each other. Kitsuns weren't supposed to cry for humans, a rule that was set centuries ago by the first Kitsun keeper, but I couldn't help but let out a few drops of tears. "Bro, what?" Akari stopped when she saw the fox marble. What is this?" "It's exactly what it's showing," I said, blinking a few times. That can't be. Wasn't she healthy the last time we saw her?" Akari stuttered. "It wasn't even that long ago. There's no way she's Akari got cut off by Kyeko coming in. "There's no way she's what?" she asked. I opened my mouth to say something but I couldn't get myself to say it. I just motioned towards the marble and Kyeko fell silent. I turned away, mostly to hide my tears, but also because the sight was so painful to see. I could hear more Kitsuns coming in and each of them started to cry when they realized what was happening. How is this so?" Sunio asked. "Wasn't she perfectly fine the last time we saw her?" "Same question," Kid said. Although I could see that he was deeply troubled and sad by her death, he was hiding it fairly well. "She was healthy like a few months ago." We had a few moments of silence and mourning. A few of them went away to their own rooms to get some time alone and accept the fact, I guess. I just sat there, crying, and Kid and Akari tried to calm me down. That went on for quite a while, but I calmed down soon enough. "So, any idea why that might have happened?" Kid asked, not even turning to look at me. I guess that also shocked him quite a bit. "No. It could have been a test by the Kitsun keeper." I mumbled, eyes stinging from all the crying that I just did. "Well, we Kitsuns aren't allowed to end humans, remember?" Akari said. "Oh yeah," I sighed. Then, I had this really sickening thought in my head. Maybe. Ki turned to look at me. Remember how Izuku was getting sick because of you?" I said. The other two nodded, looking at me as if asking me how that has to do with anything that is happening right now. I stayed silent for a few more moments, just to get my thoughts straight. The cause of her death might be Izuku. Izuku's POV. It's been a while since my mother has passed away. Her funeral was held a few days ago, but sadly, not many people came. Kaken's family came, some of Mother's friends and family came, but even so, there was only around 5 to 6 people in total. That made me realize how much time my mother spent in taking care of me, helping me, and supporting everything that I did. That made me feel so much worse about how I've taken everything so lightly. I've promised that I will become a great son for my mother, a great person that children can look up to, and a reliable hero that people can trust in. Although, what I am doing is far from being a hero, since technically, no matter how much good stuff I did, I'm still doing it illegally. Anyways, I've moved out of the house, probably more like kicked out since I couldn't pay the rent. I started living on the streets, mostly on rooftops, so I don't get discovered easily. But there was a time where a shop owner saw me lurking around on the roof of the shop next to her, so I decided to take more caution to that. I've been training my one remaining quirk as well, although it's no longer even considered a quirk now. It wasn't only Dr. Susumu who said that I had no quirk, other quirk doctors told me that too, and every test I've gotten had the same exact results. So I've come to the conclusion that the quirk is now a part of me, which I wouldn't consider to be a good thing. I have also been making a plan to crash Overhaul's hideout. I've been spying on several heroes, villains, and hero agencies, hoping to find out some useful information, and I've been able to find out about Overhaul's whereabouts. I also learned about how the other heroes were going to crash Overhaul's hideout, so I decided to put my plan into action. Sooner than I would have liked. I was planning to raid his hideout someday next week, a few days before the heroes get there, and just sneak away the child I've heard about. I will fight Overhaul if I need to, but I would prefer not to, since that'll just waste my time. I sighed, throwing away the apple juice I was sipping on. I walked around the night street, wearing a simple black hoodie and a black cap. Sure, it may look suspicious, but who would think that a wanted vigilante would go around walking in the streets? Besides, my shape-shifting skills have improved since I've first used it. I've been training really hard since I started living on the streets. I improved greatly on my illusions, which could last up till a day, and I could fly, or more like float, for around a minute. I still have lots of room for improvement, considering that brainwashing people is a pain for me. I can control a small amount of light and darkness, but controlling time is something I haven't even tried yet. Like heck will I try that? I've been seeing lost spirits these days and have been helping them out as well. Even though helping out spirits were much harder than helping people, I enjoyed it much. Especially lost spirits. Lost spirits are spirits that have a large, strong urge for revenge or an urge to live. Lost spirits are also spirits that have a large amount of mana. Akari had once told me that Kitsuns had often ended these spirits, using their mana or power to their advantage. Although that was banned a long time ago, and now Kitsuns were only allowed to come in contact with these spirits when helping them out. I guess I'm doing the same thing, just that I'm not a Kitsun. But with everything happening and my appearance changing more by day, I'm not really sure if I'm a human anymore. Maybe I wasn't one to begin with? Ikari's POV. What do you mean Izuku's the cause of his mother's death? I yelled, confused, yet angry that my brother said that. Why would Izuku ever harm her? I'm not saying that he did it on purpose. Akari yelled back. Guys, calm down, the others are sleeping and the keeper's going to be angry if you caused a ruckus in the resting dimension, Keed said, slightly glaring at us. Do you want to get kicked out during our vacation? We then calmed down and Akari soon spoke up. What I'm saying is that he might have been consuming her life energy. My brother explained. I stared at Akari, still confused. You remember that we were consuming too much of Izuku's mana and causing him to be sick, right? Yes, of course. That's why we left him in the first place. I retorted. You're talking to me as if I'm stupid or something. Well, you kind of are, Keed said quietly. I glared at him, about to punch him, but he just dodged, simply cleaning his glasses. You're too violent, Akari. Not to mention you're a simpleton. I huffed, sending Keed glares as he observed his glasses. Akari laughed hysterically at me, getting on my nerves. He ended up getting punched by me anyways. These things are crappy. Keed scrunched up his nose, putting on his glasses again. How do humans use these anyways? I just sighed and turned to my brother, who was about to continue his explanation. So, Kitsuns have to replenish their energy every once in a while, and that only happens when Kitsuns are in the same dimension as the Kitsun crystal. The longest a Kitsun can go without replenishing their energy varies between a few months to a year, depending on how much tails they have. My brother said. If they don't replenish their energy, the worst outcome is death. But Kitsuns have another way of replenishing their energy, which is to consume mana or life energy from other creatures. And? I asked, still not getting what he was trying to say. What he's trying to say is that Izuku may have been unintentionally consuming his mother's life energy to replenish his energy. Keed said, giving me an, "Are you an idiot?" look. That could be possible since he's been living in the human dimension ever since he could remember. But that's only if he is a Kitsun. But isn't he a human? I asked. He's been a human ever since he was born? He may have lived like a human, but that doesn't mean he is one. Izuku's POV. I slowly walked around Overhaul's hideout. I had followed in one of his followers into the hideout, knocking the man unconscious after figuring out the way in. I hid him somewhere, making sure he was out of view before swiftly shape-shifting into the man's appearance. "Hey, go take the girl to her room." I looked up, seeing a person wearing a white raincoat looking at me. I looked around, only seeing me, and pointed to myself. I tilted my head and the man turned fully towards me. "Are you deaf?" he asked, letting down the small girl he was carrying. "Go take this girl to her room. I have other stuff to do." I nodded, looking at the small, trembling girl. She had long, bluish, white hair that reached down to her waist and large, bright red eyes. She had a small horn on the right side of her forehead. The poor girl was wearing a short-sleeved dress, dirty and old. I was certain she was the girl I was looking for. I took the girl by the hand, walking towards who knows where when I made sure the raincoat guy was gone. "Where's your room?" I asked quietly. She slowly pointed to a certain direction. I looked down at her, only to see her trembling more violently, and she looked like she wanted to cry. There were bandages wrapping around her arms and legs. I stopped, crouching down to pick her up. She seemed surprised, but I carried her, patting her back softly as we walked down the hallways. "Do you want to leave?" I whispered, only so that she could hear me. "Icha, would you like to leave this place? Go outside and play?" I asked, this time turning the girl around so that she facing me. "Why yes, but that's not possible," she said, grabbing onto my clothes. "He wouldn't let me. If I do, people are going to get hurt." I frowned, sighing as I let her down. After making sure that nobody was around, I patted her hair, smiling slightly at her. "I can take you out," I whispered. "Nobody will get hurt and you can be free, play with friends, eat delicious foods, and do whatever you want." "Beeb." She looked down. "People will get hurt because of me? I'm dangerous." "No, you're not dangerous." I smiled. "You're wonderful and I can get you out of here. I'll be here for you, okay?" She hesitantly nodded but looked at me with teary eyes. She hugged onto me and I picked her up, carrying her to her room. How are you going to get me out, mister?" the girl asked, nervously sitting on her bed. "My name's Izuku MIdoriya. Just call me Izuku." I smiled, turning back to my normal appearance. "What's your name?" She stared at me, surprised. I smiled at her and she seemed to relax a bit. "I'm Eri," she said, seeming much more comfortable. "Here, I don't think you have anything important here, so I'll make this quick," I said, seeing the girl nod. I cut a piece of her hair and created an illusion of Eri. I sighed, heart thumping when I saw that the illusion was really similar to Eri. Eri seemed astonished at her image, and I made sure that the illusion was acting like how Eri would have. "Okay, we have to go soon," I said, picking her up again. "The illusion will disappear in a few days, but it'll be best for us to be as far away from here as possible. What do you think you're doing?" I heard a voice, making me snap my head to the direction of the source. "What are you doing to my daughter, mister?" The man wore a weird bird mask and had short, auburn hair. And not to mention, he had oddly long lower eyelashes. I then realized that he was Overhaul, the man who's been hurting the poor girl. Don't call me that. You make me feel old." I smirked, sarcasm evident in my voice. "As for your daughter, she'll be coming with me to experience some happiness. Let her go and I might spare you," the man said. "What about you let us go, and I'll spare you?" I said, feeling Eri grip onto me more harder. "Eri, would you want that hero to die because of you?" the man said, looking towards the poor girl that was hugging onto me. "Would you want another person to die because of your selfish desires?" Eri whimpered, her grip tightening then loosening as she left go of me. I looked at her but smiled, saying that I'll be much happier if she would trust me. "You can trust me." I smiled. "I mean, if I wasn't strong, I wouldn't have been here in the first place." Eri seemed to be reassured and hugged me again, this time a bit more tighter than the other hugs. Overhaul seemed to be losing his patience and came closer to us. I noticed that our surroundings were slowly shifting. "Fridge, I've never tried this before, but I guess I have no choice," I muttered, getting ready to use my quirk. This would have been Overhaul wasn't able to finish his sentence as I have stopped time. I let out a sigh of relief as I debated on whether finishing him off or just teleport to somewhere safe. I took a small glance at Eri, who seemed to be unaffected by my quirk. I guess I was just lucky this time. I groaned, noticing that the only thing that froze in time was Overhaul. But I guess he still had his consciousness. Well, then, let's take him along with us. Huh. Eri looked at me as if I was crazy. To the police station? Or maybe we need to drop him off at like an ocean or something? I trailed off, thinking of a safe and good place to drop him off at. I'll just take him to the police station. Besides, I don't know my limit with this time freeze ability. Eri nodded and I told her to get onto my back. I held onto Overhaul, which I had to carry in my arms while we teleported from place to place. Hold on tight, I said. This might take a while. Since I couldn't yet teleport long distances at once, I had to stop every several miles and teleport again. But after a bit of teleporting, we arrived at Tardus, the special prison for villains. Oh gosh. Well, excuse me, I yelled, plopping Overhaul down onto the ground. We have a villain over here. When I continued to yell, I saw people running towards us. When I made sure that Overhaul was well restrained, I sent the guards a small smirk. I picked up Eri, teleporting us in small distances, eventually reaching back to where I was staying, the streets. Izuku, where are we staying? Eri asked. Well, I usually lived on the streets, but I know where we can stay at. I smiled. Let's get some dinner before we do anything else though. Izuku's POV. I sighed, setting the tired girl on the bed. I managed to rent a house for the month so that Eri wouldn't have to go wandering around on the streets like I did. I sat on the bed next to her, singing her a calming song since it seemed like she was having a hard time falling asleep. A song that my mother used to sing me. After a few moments, Eri fell asleep, giving me the perfect timing to get some groceries. During the time I take care of Eri, I've decided to lessen my time fighting crimes and spend time with her instead. I locked the door securely before going to the nearest market. I bought some pork and some vegetables, hoping that what I cook will fit Eri's taste. I was about to head home when I passed by a clothes shop. The image of Eri's dirty clothes flashed in my mind and I walked into the clothes store. Hello dear. What can I do for you? A friendly-looking woman said, approaching me as I looked through some girls' clothing. I glanced at the women. I was looking for some clothes for my younger sister. She's around 6 years old now. Really? Clothes for children are over there in the right, she said, showing me where it was. Thank you, I said, giving the woman a lazy smile. I sighed in relief when the woman went away, kind of annoyed that she chose to talk to me. I'm just thankful she left me alone though. This seems cute, I muttered, holding up a red pinafore. I saw that it was a set with a white dress shirt. I set the pinafore down, thinking that it would be a bit too uncomfortable for Eri to wear. I took it anyways, deciding to come here later with Eri, seeing which clothes she wanted most. But before I left, I got some other clothes. Thankfully, I had enough money to pay for them. I guess working a whole bunch of part-time jobs have paid off. The next day, I woke up on the couch, seeing Eri still asleep on the bed. I got up to cook breakfast. I decided to cook katsudon, since it was the only food I knew to cook. I did know how to cook other foods as well, it's just that I didn't want to burn the house down. Eri, wake up. I made breakfast, I said, lightly shaking the girl. Be breakfast? She asked, rubbing her eyes as she sat up. What's breakfast? A breakfast is what you call food that you eat in the morning, I explained, smiling when I saw the girl's eyes sparkle. I'm not sure if you'll like it though. Eri started eating and I did as well, silently praying that the food will fit her taste. She looked up at me after eating a spoonful and I smiled when I saw her eyes sparkle. It tastes great, Eri said. Thank you, Nichan. Why, you're welcome. I was honestly flustered when she called me Nichan, but I shrugged it off. I continued watching her eat. She must have been very hungry. I frowned when I realized that she never once smiled to me, even after getting free from Overhaul. It must have been very hard for her. Eri, why don't you smile? I asked, taking the bowls from her when she finished. How? Eri paused, looking at me. How do you smile? This took me by surprise, but I realized that in her situation, most people would have said the same. This is kind of hard to explain. I sighed. Eri, someone smiles when they're happy. I won't force you to smile because there's no meaning behind an empty smile, but I'd love to see your smile one day. At this, Eri teared up and I panicked, frantically trying to calm her down. Once she did, she looked up at me, and although I saw tears rolling down her face, I could see happiness glistening in her eyes. That was enough for me to feel better. I hugged her and she hugged back, her tears falling onto my chest. Guess what? I said once she calmed down. I pulled out the clothes I bought from yesterday, which was wrapped in a box. She tilted her head, looking at me. What is it? Tada, I said, pulling out the dress for her. This is for you, Eri. Thank you, she said, looking at me. And these are your shoes, I said, giving her some sneakers. Eri looked at me and hugged me again. I hugged her, patting her back. Today, I'm going to take you shopping, I said, smiling. You can get anything you are really? Eri asked. I nodded. Thank you. I just smiled, getting a comb and brushing Eri's uncombed hair. I helped her wash up and change into the clothes I bought for her. I then changed as well, getting into my new red sweater I bought the other night. Oh, we're pairs, Eri said, pointing at my sweater. Yep. We're pairs, I said, grabbing her hand and taking her outside. Now, let's go experience some freedom. Time skip. It was already sunset and Eri and I have had such a fun time today. We went shopping for clothes and I bought her a small bunny doll, telling her that it was something she could remember me by. We went to the movies. We ate popcorn and soda, watching a kids' movie that Eri seemed to be interested in. Currently, we were sitting on a bench in the park, eating ice cream and watching the ducks wobble around. I sighed, relieved that my shape-shifting hadn't worn off yet. Neat, Eri said, tugging on my sweater sleeves. Thank you? I asked. For what? For helping me and teaching me how to smile, Eri said, this time looking up to me. She smiled. Thank you. I felt so happy when I saw her smile. It felt like a lot of weight was being lifted up from my shoulders. I felt whole again. Since my mother's death and the disappearance of the Kitsuns, I've been feeling lonely and empty. But seeing Eri smile, I felt so much better. You're welcome, I smiled back. But I'm thankful to have met such a nice, wonderful girl like you. I've had such fun with you, something I've hadn't experienced for the past few months. So thank you, Eri. Eri smiled more brightly and we soon decided to head back. I helped her get changed into her new pajamas and I got changed myself. I sang her a lullaby again, running my hand through her soft hair. She looked at me, smiling a little. Good night, she mumbled. I smiled, kissing the sleeping girl on the forehead. Good night, Eri. Izuku's POV. I woke up to the chirping of the birds. When I did, I heard some gasps coming from Eri. I hurriedly looked over to her, seeing her horn much larger than yesterday. She seemed to be in pain and I realized that she's struggling to contain her quirk. It hurts. Eri whimpered, squeezing her eyes shut as she wrapped her hands around her head. My head hurts. It's going to be okay, Eri, I said, picking her up. Just hand on. I'll get help, okay? Eri nodded and grabbed onto me. I felt her horn on my shoulder and my head started hurting, probably because of Eri's quirk. I bit my lips, trying my best to ignore the pain, and I started running the fastest I could to the first place I thought of. Although it did take a while, I finally managed to get to the entrance of UA. Many staffs and students were surprised, some even trying to catch me, since I was probably a wanted figure. I ignored them, shouting for them to stay away, mostly because I didn't want Eri to get hurt but also because Eri's quirk might harm them. Where's Eraserhead? I said, panting. Everybody just stared, making my patience to wear thin. I gritted my teeth, glaring at the students in the hallway. Where's Eraserhead? I yelled, making some people come out of their classrooms, including a few teachers. I need to see him right now. What is it, Midoriya? Or should I call you Deku? I turned around to see Mr. Aizawa. Stop causing a rucdash. I need your help. I panted, feeling pressure on my body as Eri's state seemed to get worse. Upon seeing Eri, Mr. Aizawa seemed extremely surprised. He then seemed to understand what I needed help with and he cancelled Eri's quirk, causing me to fall down due to my strength leaving me knees. Eri soon calmed down, her horn shrinking back to its normal size. She looked at me worriedly and I just smiled, hugging her close. I was about to get up, attempting to leave, but Mr. Aizawa grabbed me. All Might and Cementos held me back as Midnight took away Eri from me. I struggled and somehow I managed to get free with my quirk, even though Mr. Aizawa was obviously using his quirk on me. "Nichan," Eri said, hugging onto me. "Who are they? These people here are pro-heroes?" I smiled bitterly. "They're going to keep you safe, since I obviously won't be able to?" Eri looked at me, concerned with a hint of confusion. Eri's quirk would go out of control again, and if she stays with me, she's not going to be able to get the proper training she needs. Besides, she's most safe with the heroes, not a criminal like me. I wanted to leave, but I was held back by Mr. Aizawa's bonds. Plus, All Might was crushing me with his quirk and couldn't even move no matter how much I tried. I sighed, rolling my eyes as Midnight started giving me a lecture about some stuff I wasn't even listening, to be honest. "We'll deal with you later," Mr. Aizawa sighed, picking up Eri. "Come with me, Det." "Fine, geez." I huffed, walking next to him. "Why bother changing your vigilante name anyways?" Mr. Aizawa asked, looking at me with a displeased look. "Just having to deal with villains are annoying, don't add on to it." "Well, I wouldn't have if you heroes did your job correctly." I spat. "You guys can't even take care of the citizens." I just felt like I should take matters into my own hands. Mr. Aizawa shot me a glare. He was about to say something when we were interrupted by Eri, who seemed a bit upset. "Don't hurt my Nichan, mister," Eri said, surprising both me and Mr. Aizawa. "He saved me and took care of me when nobody else did." I smiled, comforting Eri that Mr. Aizawa did nothing wrong and that we were just having a friendly argument. We continued to walk to wherever we were going in silence, Eri clinging onto me since she didn't seem to feel comfortable in Mr. Aizawa's arms. She kept asking me where we were and if I was going to be okay. "We're here," Mr. Aizawa said, stopping in front of the infirmary. "Go in and get yourself treated, along with the girl. Then come to the office." I nodded and watched him leave, hesitantly opening the infirmary doors. I froze when I opened the doors, seeing Kaken, who was right behind the door. He was clutching his forehead, since I think I slammed the door into his face. "Oops, didn't see you there, Kaken." I snickered, making him growl. "Did you miss me?" "Shut up, useless Deku," he yelled, pushing me. "Get out of my way." "Oh, well then." I smirked. "See you soon, Kaken." He just glared at me, leaving the infirmary. I sighed, setting down Eri on one of the infirmary beds, and I asked Recovery Girl to check Eri's state. She did a quick checkup on both of us, giving Eri some candy and giving me some bandages. "So, are you having fun messing around?" Recovery Girl asked, sitting back at her desk. "Sure, you might be doing good deeds, but child, it's still illegal. I wouldn't be doing it if the heroes weren't so scared to step up for everybody." I snorted. Just because someone's quirkless, they push them aside and all heroes care about is fame and money. They're just so hypocritical. "But that's how the world is, that's the world we live in," Recovery Girl said, patting my back. Just don't get yourself in too much trouble. There are people relying on you." I nodded, smiling a bit at her words. I felt better, knowing that she understood how I felt and that she doesn't see me as an law-breaking criminal but as another person. It felt so much better since she didn't reprimand me for doing what I believed was right. "That makes me feel slightly better," I said, giving her a smile. "So, did you miss me?" Recovery Girl sighed, shaking her head as she let out a chuckle. "You never change, do you? But I guess that's your charm. You know me so well." I laughed. "Welcome back, Izuku." Izuku's POV. "Midoriya, we have decided to give you one last chance to prove yourself," Niza said. "We'll allow you to redeem yourself by either studying here or helping the pro-heroes." I currently stood in front of the pro-heroes and the teachers of UA. They were having a meeting with some policemen and government agencies about what to do with me. "I'll help out then." I smiled. "Oh, and I have a request." "What is your request?" Nizu asked. If something bad happens to me?" I sucked in a breath. "Please look over Eri, she's like a sister for me." Nizu nodded and allowed me to leave. Mr. Aizawa showed me where I was going to live, since I was going to be under constant surveillance. Thankfully, they didn't separate Eri from me. Get some rest. You'll be joining the other children in their training starting tomorrow. Mr. Aizawa told me. If you need anything, you can call me. Mr. Aizawa left his phone number on the table and left. I glanced at Eri, who was sleeping. I sighed and sat at the seat, which was located near the bed. I wish they didn't leave, I said, gently brushing Eri's hair. Why does everyone leave me? Father left, Kakin never liked me in the first place, the Kitsuns left, and Mother left too. I felt some tears fall down my face. I just wished that someone will listen to what I have to say. I whispered, my eyes closing. I just wished for someone to hear me out, not reprimand me. I'm tired of people telling me to do that, do this. I sighed, opening my eyes to look at Eri again. She looked so peaceful while sleeping. Who am I to say this? You've probably gone through more than me. I chuckled sadly, standing up. I need some fresh air. I quietly left the room, closing the door behind me. I quickly left the building, walking around the UA campus, hoping to find a place quiet enough to organize my thoughts. I ended up sitting on the grass behind the building. I looked up at the sky. The sky was painted in beautiful shades of orange and blue. We'll be here for you, Izuku. Remember? We're all one. We're a family now. I smiled to myself, recalling what Akari had once said to me. We're all one, huh? I frowned. What happened to that promise? When did everything go wrong? What did I do wrong? Aizawa's POV. Are you sure this is the right thing to do? All Might asked Nizu. The boy seems really tired. Not to mention what had happened to his mother. I don't know either, but wounds heal by time and I trust that Midoriya is strong enough to deal with his own problems. Nizu replied. And besides, we have a duty to do as adults. We can guide him to do good and perhaps we can bring back his real smile. I see. I mumbled. Well, I go check on him. Nizu nodded and I quickly walked out of the office. Just as I reached the room where Midoriya was staying, I saw him leave the room. I quietly followed him, making sure that he didn't see me. What did I do wrong? I froze when I heard the boy say this. Just this one question was enough for me to understand that Izuku was indeed hurt. I could see it in his eyes. The pain, the sorrow, I can hear the hollowness in his voice and how strained it is. I can feel it, even if he manages to fool others with his fake, sarcastic personality, I could see how hurt he was. Just, why do you insist on keeping up that painful facade? I questioned. Although I haven't said it loud enough for him to hear it, he looked at me. His eyes were red and tears were falling down his face. He looked so broken, yet he had a smile on his face. Didn't know you were there. The boy chuckled, standing up from where he sat. Well, I'll get going. Don't want to disturb you. Just as Midoriya passed by, I grabbed his arms, making him look at me again. I hesitantly hugged him, patting his back. He was first very stiff but he soon relaxed, his body trembling as I felt warm tears on my shoulder. Why no, Mr. Aizawa? Midoriya called. It hurts so much. I feel as if I'm drowning in a never-ending ocean of sorrow. Getting pulled back up into the light, only to be pushed back into the endless ocean of darkness again and again. I frowned at his words. His voice sounded so dead, so empty. Does nobody care? Midoriya's voice spoke out. Am I really just a criminal to everyone? Is that all I am? Does nobody see that I'm a person too? That I have feelings too? Does nobody really care? I hugged him tighter, and the boy hugged back, his face buried into my chest. I care. I may not know what you're going through, but I whispered, rubbing circles on the boy's back. I care. You're never alone in this world, child. Akari's POV. Akari, we have to go. My sister nagged. Our vacation's over, dude. Yeah, I sighed. I'm just not ready to see him again. I feel bad for leaving so suddenly, you know? I do too, but explaining to him directly will be better than just leaving that poor boy in sorrow. We also have some news to tell him. Akari retorted. Besides, we all miss him. Everybody nodded, all looking down since we all knew how much Izuku has been going through the moment we left. We had promised to stay with him but we had left him, during his hardest times. Oh, let's go. I smiled. Let's go meet that problem child. Izuku's POV. I smirked, waving at all my former classmates when they stared at me in shock. I stood next to Mr. Aizawa, casually ignoring the insults that were pouring out from Kaken's mouth. This child right here will assist me in teaching you guys as well, mostly during quirk training, Mr. Aizawa announced once the bell rung. He will also be joining you in several classes and events, so please welcome him. Like last time, I sent all of them a smile, and some people sent me welcoming looks, while some sent me wary looks, and some, mostly Kaken, sent me threatening glares. I appreciate your kindness, I said. I look forward to working with you guys once again. Welcome back, Midoriya. I chuckled at how they said that in unison. I felt somewhat happy that they accepted me again. Perhaps, I've been pushing myself away from people a bit too much. I never thought that I would, once again, enjoy being with people when I obviously know that I'm going to lose them. I've always lost people. They either left or they died. I sighed, shaking away my thoughts as I quickly took this short moment to get to know my classmates, and dare I say, friends, a bit more. After that quick few minutes, Mr. Aizawa dismissed me, saying that it was time for class. I nodded, stumbling outside of the classroom, since their first period isn't one of the classes that I'm supposed to be in. I'm supposed to be helping class 1B for the first 2 periods. Nichan. I turned around to see Eri running towards me with midnight on her tail. Let's play. I'm sorry, Eri. I smiled, crouching down and patting her hair. I have to help the teachers here. Do you want to come with me? Eri nodded her head after a few seconds. I thanked Midnight for taking care of Eri during the morning, and Midnight just smiled, leaving us to go to class 1B. We walked in silence for a while before I opened my mouth. So, Eri, do you feel lonely? I asked. Like, don't you want any friends? Well, I have you, Nichan, so I don't feel lonely that much. Eri smiled. And today I met some fox friends. They were so cute. I flinched when she said the word fox. I guess I still can't erase the memories of them no matter how much I tried. Oh, where did you meet them? I asked. I saw them outside, Eri said, her eyes sparkling. The leader is the one named Akari. At that, I completely froze. I took in a deep breath before turning towards Eri. She looked up at me as thoughts raced through my head and my heartbeat increased. Nichan? Are you okay? I gulped as her voice rang through my head. Akari? I stuttered, seeing Eri nod her head. Did you call me? Nizu's POV. So, he was crying yesterday? I asked Aizawa. Aizawa simply nodded, staring at me from his place on the couch. He was settled in his yellow sleeping bag and he seemed troubled. That child, he causes so much trouble. Aizawa sighed. I'll get going. I need to check on that problem child. Aizawa slowly shuffled out of my office, leaving me and All Might in the room. I just stared in amusement as I saw Aizawa lay on the floor once he was out the door, rolling on his side towards the direction to his classroom. I heard a sigh come from All Might, who had gone to close the door to the office. I do think that the boy does cause quite a bit of problems. All Might chuckled, sitting back down on the sofa in front of mine. I paused, staring at the warm cup in my hand. I honestly didn't know how to reply to that. No matter how much I tried to think on the messy green-haired boy's thought level, he always manages to surprise me. Sometimes, he goes beyond my expectations. Well, he must have his reasons. I replied, sipping my tea. All Might, have you thought of a reason on why you still have your quirk when Midoriya was said to have eaten your hair? I sighed when I saw the confused look on All Might's face. Even I can't seem to figure that problem out. Although if he were to become a hero, he would become a great, powerful one that provides the civilians with a sense of safety and comfort. He would be able to bring a smile to everyone's face, child or elders. No. I saw him eat my hair and I'm certain that it's been taken to effect. All Might mumbled. But I still have my quirk and, this doesn't make sense. It really doesn't make sense. I sighed. You should go talk to him about it. And you should also consider passing your quirk on to someone else. We don't have much time left. All Might simply nodded and sipped his tea as well. So, are you going to tell young Midoriya about that little plan of yours? All Might asked. Nah. I got that young girl to help me out. I smiled. It seemed like she'll do anything for that boy. How did you get them to come here in the first place? All Might asked. How did you find those kitsuns, actually? I chuckled, looking at All Might. I have my ways. Besides, both of them, they were suffering. I sighed. I wonder just how dumb they can be. All Might choked on the tea and I just handed him a napkin. I feel bad for the child, I said. He deserves better. I see, All Might said. I agree. So when are you going to show those kitsuns to the boy? Oh, they probably already have. I smirked. I wonder if that child will appreciate my little welcome present. All Might sighed at my words, drinking his own tea. I'm sure that he would appreciate it. Izuku's POV. So, you only left because you guys were causing my sickness? You guys don't hate me? I asked, choking back another sob. Of course. We love you, Izuku. Akari chuckled, handing me a tissue. We're sorry for leaving you just like that, but we just couldn't bring ourselves to tell you. And we needed a small vacation to recover our energy. They gave me a necklace and a bracelet, which both had a small blue marble in the center of it. This is for you. We got it during our vacation. Think of it like a souvenir. Q exclaimed. We won't leave you like that again. For the past hour, the kitsuns told me everything from why they left me to what they thought was happening. I was very upset when they suddenly showed up, after disappearing. But I was more happy than upset, honestly. Midnight and Cementos had to take Eri away so that I could have a private conversation with all of the kitsuns, who were all in their human forms. And we're sorry to hear that your mother died, Izuku, Akari said, and I just gave them a sad smile. It's okay, everyone's bound to die one day, I replied, sighing. I'm happy to finally see you again. Some of the kitsuns flinched, quietly whispering something to each other. It was quite strange since they weren't usually the type to keep secrets. And several quirk doctors said I was quirkless. But I can still use my kitsun quirk, so I'm very confused, I explained, shaking off their reaction. Isn't it confusing? When I said that, all the kitsuns tensed up, glancing at each other awkwardly before looking back at me. Akari and several others were fidgeting and playing with their own fingers. They were acting like little children who got in trouble, and honestly it looked pretty funny. It's just that the atmosphere in the room was too dense and serious. Is something wrong? I asked, confused but mostly worried about their actions. Well, no, it's nothing. Yanzo sighed. Can we talk about this after lunch? I'm suddenly hungry all of a sudden. I nodded, following them to the cafeteria. Even though I could sense that something was off about them, I decided to keep that to myself and wait until they tell me truthfully about what they were hiding. I couldn't help but feel a bit hurt, since they had promised me that they trust me. Yet, they can't tell me a single secret. I shook the thought off, sitting down between Ryu and Kahaku with my lunch. I quietly picked on my food for a while, deep in thought before Akari snapped me out of it. Hey, are you not going to eat that? Akari asked. I can eat it for you. Of course I'm going to eat it. I snapped, shooing his hand away. Anyways, what is it that you're hiding from me? I told you everything from when you guys left and to how I met Eri. You're not going to like what I'm about to tell you, but I guess it's better for you to know about it faster. Akari sighed, looking away from me. Listen closely, Izuku. However, before Akari could say anything, the door to the cafeteria was slammed open, showing Kaken standing there. He looked super mad and looked my way, but I sent him an annoyed smirk. He stomped towards where I was and attempted to punch me, which I swiftly dodged. And of course, I had to punch him back. Fancy seeing you here, Kaken? I smiled, innocently watching him clutch his stomach. Did that hurt? Anyways, what's up? You little dash. Hey kid, just leave us be. Akari snickered, interrupting Kaken. Young ones these days? How lucky. Akari sighed like an old man and the rest of the kitsuns laughed, dragging me away from Kaken, who was actually really angry. I must say, I've never seen him that angry, but I ignored it, returning my attention to the kitsuns. Anyways, as I was Asidash, everyone please return to your classrooms as quick as possible. A voice interrupted. I soon realized that it was Mr. Aizawa speaking through the intercom, and I quickly dragged the kitsuns along to my assigned classroom, Class 1A, completely forgetting about the secret the kitsuns were planning to tell me. There was a small break-in by some villains. We are suspecting him to be a member of the League of Villains, and we have received reports that there are more villains acting recently. Mr. Aizawa said once everyone was back in the classroom. We are planning to use this chance to let you guys, under a pro hero's supervision, do actual hero work. So, basically another internship? Ida asked. Didn't we have one not too long ago? Yes, but you will be taught from the basics, since all this time you guys only got yourselves in trouble, Mr. Aizawa said, sighing as he looked at each and every one of us. Including me. Izuku, you are to help me train Eri from now on, and you will also patrol the city with me. Yes, sir. I smiled. You can totally count on me. Mr. Aizawa sighed, shaking his head. He dismissed everyone else, since they were supposed to leave for their internships early tomorrow morning. He told the Kitsuns and I to stay, saying that he had something to discuss with us. We have given you this chance again, problem child. Do not waste it, since this is the very last chance that we can allow you. Mr. Aizawa frowned, massaging his temples. The Kitsuns are to stay with you, however, they aren't allowed to leave the school campus on the weekdays unless given permission from the school faculty. The Kitsuns nodded, letting out small grumbles. They will also be required to help out at UA and will be joining the training that you and Eri will be going through. Mr. Aizawa finished, standing up. If they cause any trouble, you will be charged responsible for their actions, Izuku? I nodded, sending the Kitsuns a warning glance before smiling at Mr. Aizawa. He just huffed, leaving the room. The moment he left, I wanted to ask the Kitsuns about what they were hiding again. However, Eri barged into the room, hugging me and the Kitsuns. Nichan, Mr. Aizawa said that we'll be training together starting from tomorrow. Eri smiled, her eyes sparkling. Are you excited? I asked, softly patting her hair. I smiled as Eri nodded enthusiastically. She ran over to Akari, asking him to lift her up. He did so, easily setting her down to sit on his shoulders. I chuckled at how close Eri was to everyone. It oddly made me feel warm. Izuku, Akari called, making me snap out of my thoughts. Don't ever think that you're alone, okay? You have us, and many people care about you. Thank you. That makes me feel better. Izuku's POV. Today was the first day of our training. Eri seemed very enthusiastic about it, but once the actual training started, she seemed to get very tired. The Kitsuns seemed to get tired as well. Mr. Aizawa was pretty serious about this training, I guess. The training mostly consisted of Eri's quirk being used on plants, and Mr. Aizawa made her use it on me once. It hurt like heck, so Mr. Aizawa forbid Eri from using her quirk on other people for now, until she could control her quirk better. The Kitsuns were also training me during that time when we were not needed for Eri's training. Apparently, the quirks that I have lost aren't really gone. It's just that I don't know how to use it properly and probably just got buried by my other powers. I could use the crystal quirk and the nature quirk if I trained it properly. That's what they said. I sighed as I massaged my shoulders. It was break time, currently, but soon, I'll have to go back to training. Nichan, Mr. Aizawa was calling for you. He said that you're going on an emergency patrol. Eri said, running towards me. He told me to tell you to meet him at the entrance of the school. Oh, thank you for telling me, Eri. I smiled, patting her head before standing up. I'll be right back, okay? Okay. I'll be waiting. Eri smiled back as I left the gym. I gave her one last wave as I closed the door. I smiled to myself as I remembered how happy Eri looked these days. She's finally healing from her past scars and starting to open up with others. She's no longer scared to express her feelings, and seeing her get better somehow makes me feel better. Perhaps I'm just seeing my younger self in Eri. A boy who got hurt for being quirkless and a girl who was used for her quirk. Our pasts may have been different in several ways, but the fact that we both were suffering just makes me feel a bit closer to Eri. I just want to give her a happier life, a brighter future than the ones I had. I sighed as I arrived at the entrance to UA. I saw Mr. Aizawa and 3 of the Kitsuns there. Mr. Aizawa seemed to be very impatient, and the 3 Kitsuns, Akari, Akari, and Takako, looked very nervous and concerned. Hey, is anything wrong? I asked. There's no time for a full explanation right now, Mr. Aizawa said. We'll explain you the details later, but there was a sudden villain attack at the main square. 6 of the Kitsuns have been injured while protecting the citizens, and the rest, excluding the ones here, are helping somewhere else. Where exactly? I asked. And how did 6 of them get hurt? They're undeniably strong. Kid, Mori, Kyeko, and Masako went over to help the other pro heroes since there was a fire at one of the middle schools. Akari replied as we were quickly led out of the UA campus by Mr. Aizawa. The other 6, they're at the hospital currently, but they are said to be affected with some kind of magic, not a quirk but some weird power. How is that possible? Magic? I asked, following besides them. Are you sure it's not a quirk? Yes, several doctors confirmed the claim. The effect on their health system is agreed to have been caused by an unknown force. Mr. Aizawa replied. Then that means my quirk won't work on it, but that unknown force doesn't seem like they'll stop. We're currently focusing on keeping the citizens away from the area, but we have to find a way to at least restrain that person fast. I nodded, trying to process the information that Mr. Aizawa had told me. The idea that the Kitsuns got injured was very foreign to me. Nobody would be able to deny that the Kitsuns were incredibly strong, especially since they know how to use their powers effectively and have not lost a single battle I've seen. Everything that they were telling me sounded like lies. But the expressions on Akari, and Takako's face was all that I needed to see that confirmed that everything right now was indeed true. That everything that was happening right now was not a prank or a dream, but in fact a reality. I bit my lips. My head was spinning and my breath hitched. My heart was pounding and many emotions flooded me. First, disbelief. Then, bewilderment. And then, concern, fear, sorrow, and finally anger. Everything felt so frustrating. The fact that I, again, couldn't do anything to protect the ones I loved, that the Kitsuns might die as well, and that I will be thrown away after I prove as a disappointment. That I, again, might end up alone. When I came back to reality, we were already at the main square of the city. There was a large crack in the ground and many people were injured. Blood was everywhere and screams sounded from every corner. There were fire and smoke in the air, but the person who caused all of this was nowhere to be found. We were told to get everyone to safety, and after around 30 minutes, the firefighters came to help. The 4 Kitsuns that were helping with a fire at a middle school came to help as well. Thankfully, the fire wasn't that big and there weren't many citizens we had to help. Just as the situation started to cease, I saw a shadow moving amongst the people. It was incredibly fast and it moved into a dark alleyway. I narrowed my eyes to get a better glimpse at the person, but I was surprised to see Akari. He looked at me and we made eye contact. He simply motioned for me to follow him and entered the alleyway. Hey, wait, I said, following him as he quickly strode further into the alleyway. What's all this about, Akari? Why are you acting so suspicious all of a sudden? Akari simply laughed at my question and stood still. His white hair suddenly turned black, and blue flames started to surround him as his clothes changed as well. He was now wearing a black kimono. Child, how naive you are. It's honestly very entertaining to see you struggle through your life without knowing anything. Akari, no, the unknown male chuckled. The man turned towards me and I flinched. His eyes glowed a crimson red, and his skin was extremely pale. Everything about him was just so terrifying. Not to mention the suffocating aura that surrounded him. Who are you? I managed to choke out. Who am I? A sly smile crept onto his face. How interesting. Seems like Akari didn't tell you. I frowned when he mentioned Akari's name. The man stepped closer to me and I stepped back. I'm the keeper, and I'm here to tell you the truth. Izuku's POV. To the truth? I asked. The mysterious man simply nodded. I don't. Of course you don't get what I'm saying. The man sighed. I suppose Akari didn't tell you anything at all. As the leader of his group, he's certainly doing a terrible job. I stared at him in confusion and the man seemed to have noticed it. He chuckled and smiled at me. Perhaps I should cut them off from their duties. There are other Kitsuns that do better than them after all. The man mumbled. He smirked. So, are you willing to hear the truth? I stepped back towards the opening of the alleyway, but the man stopped me. He had swiftly moved behind me, blocking the only exit. What do you want from me? I spat, glaring at him. Oh, I simply want to tell you the information you ought to know. The man snickered. Don't you want to know why your mother died and why you lost all your quirks? I stared at the man, shocked and terrified. Not many people have known about my mother's death, and nobody except a few others knew about my quirk issues. But this man, that I've never met, knew so much about me. How do you know that? Who are you? I asked. I told you, haven't I? The man shrugged. I'm the keeper. I know everything. Anyways, enough with the chit-chat. If you aren't willing to cooperate with me, I'm going to have to force you. The man threatened, his smirk turning into a frown. Izuku MIdoriya, you want to know why your mother died so suddenly, right? I'll tell you everything, but whether or not to believe it is all up to you. I blinked slowly, barely managing to process what he had said. You ended your mother? Or well, I guess I should say your foster mother. The man said. I stared at him in disbelief and he just stared back at me. You're not a human, child. I thought you were smarter than that. You were born as a Kitsun, you just grew up like a human. The man continued. I'm honestly surprised on how long you could survive here, but I have to say, it was quite entertaining to watch you grow up. Without even knowing who or what you were. That doesn't make sense. I snapped back, hoping that this was just a dream. Just a terrible nightmare and that someone would wake me up. Then why am I here? Why am I not in the Kitsun realm? The man silently looked at me, only adding to my frustration. I could feel tears welling up in my eyes. I grabbed the man's collar and shook him, but the man still didn't say a thing. As if on cue, it started raining. First, it was a soft drizzle, but it soon turned denser. Answer me, I yelled. Calm down, child. The man sighed. He pushed me away, dusting himself off. He snapped his fingers, summoning an umbrella for himself. There was a war in the Kitsun realm not long ago, around 10 years ago. I think it was, your biological parents both died in that war. But before your mother died, she took you to your foster mother, asking for her to take care of you. How what? Your biological mother and foster mother known each other since childhood. I won't dig too deep into that, but they've met each other through an odd incident. Anyways, moving on. The male sighed again. You were around for when you were taken in by your foster mother. At that time, you probably don't remember, but you ended your foster father as well. My father? But he left us. I muttered, looking down at the ground. How foolish. I thought by now, you'll be able to piece everything on your own. The man stepped closer to me, stopping right in front of me. I looked up, my eyes locking onto his. You lacked control and ended him. Your mother lied to you, saying that he left, so you don't get traumatized. You ended her husband, yet she loved you so much. She took care of you as if you were her own son. The man said, an indifferent look settling on his face. Your foster mother was scared too. She was scared that you might hurt someone, or even get yourself ended. So she brought you up as a human, thinking that it'll be better for you. So your body and mind naturally adapted to the human system here, nullifying your powers until now, which is usually the growing stage for young Kitsuns. The man continued. Since you didn't get proper training to control your powers and you didn't get the proper energy you needed, you subconsciously started draining the life energy of your mother, the one person you were the most closest to. I fell on my knees, tears falling down my face as I took in the information the man had told me. No matter how much I told myself it wasn't true, my heart already knew that it was, in fact, the truth. The reason behind her death is you. The man whispered, crouching down next to me. If you don't believe me, you can go ask your Kitsun friends. They'll most certainly be able to tell you everything you need to know. Well, then, I'll have to go as I've run out of time. It was nice meeting you, Izuku MIdoriya, the keeper said, standing up. I look forward to seeing you again, but I doubt that you can pass. I looked up after the strange statement, only to find that the man was gone. I let out an agonized scream, crying harder as I clutched my chest. I was very well aware of the disgusted or confused stares I was getting from passerbys, but I couldn't care less. After a while, I stood up as well, staring at my feet in both disbelief and sorrow. Even though the rain was pouring, I couldn't bring myself to move. Why? Time skip. I slowly walked to my assigned room, leaving a trail of water behind me. I could barely walk right now and I felt as if my life had been sucked out of me. My clothes stuck onto me because of the rainwater, but there was something more important on my mind, right now. I passed by the numerous UA staffs, ignoring their stares and comments. I had to find Akari and the others. They would be able to tell me the truth. Maybe then, I'll be able to accept the reality a bit easier. I bumped into someone. I slowly looked up, seeing the familiar golden eyes staring down at me. The moment I saw Akari's concerned face, I felt the tears well up in my eyes again, and no matter how much I tried to hold it back, no matter how much I tried to hide it, the tears were falling down my face again. I looked away, staring at the ground. Even though I was looking for Akari, I couldn't help but feel hurt that he had not told me such important news first. That I had to hear it from someone else to learn the truth. That I had to hear the truth from a stranger rather than the person I considered my closest friend. "Are you okay, Izuku?" Akari asked, grabbing my shoulders. "Why are you back so late?" "We were worried." I stayed silent for a while. "Why?" I asked. "Huh? Why didn't you tell me?" I asked again. "What are you talking about?" Akari snapped, shaking me. I shut my mouth again. Then, when I mustered up the courage to do so, I looked back up at Akari. I forced myself to look into his eyes, my expression morphing into a bitter one from the lifeless one I wore previously. "Why didn't you tell me the truth?" Akari's POV. "Is Izuku still in his room?" he asked me. I nodded, letting out a worried sigh. Everyone groaned, all seeming very concerned. Izuku had been holed up in his room ever since that one day he returned. He yelled at us, demanding for an answer, going on about what the keeper had told him. Out of frustration, I had yelled back. "It's all true. You ended your mother, you ended your father. You never belonged here in the first place." Izuku had seemed very shocked when I had replied like that. It was when he started crying that I snapped back to reality. I wanted to apologize to him, but he had pushed me away and locked himself in his room. I felt very regretful since then. The other Kitsuns were too. Actually, everybody was. The teachers, Izuku's previous classmates, even Bakugo. Perhaps, if I'd been more careful with my words back then, Izuku wouldn't be as hurt as he was. He was obviously sensitive and scared by the sudden news he had been given by the keeper. And I yelled at him, which would just add on to his pain. "Bro, you were a bit harsh with your words." Akari nudged. "Apologize to him. You think I haven't tried?" I tried to talk to him several times, but he never opened the door. Not even for Eri. I frowned. I glanced at the small child who was currently quietly drinking milk. Eri has also been upset since Izuku locked himself in his room. She had also tried, several times, to get Izuku to come out, but nothing worked. "He hasn't been eating either. How long has this been going on?" He asked. "I think almost 2 weeks." I mumbled. "He's going to die at this rate." Everyone fell silent once I got those words out. The atmosphere got more darker and it was suffocating. I stood up, slapping my hands on the table to gain the attention of everyone in the room. "We messed up," I muttered, scrunching up my nose. "Go? Where to?" Kahaku asked. "What do you mean, where to?" "We're going to talk to Izuku," I snapped. "Well, he's not going to simply open the door for us." Ko snorted. "Then I'm going to break the door open. This gloominess ends today and we'll clear out the misunderstandings," I stated, making a fist of determination. Time skip. I sucked in a deep breath before knocking on the door. Like our previous attempts, there was no answer. I frowned, my eyebrow twitching slightly. I breathed to steady myself and I knocked again. "Izuku, please open the door," I said, leaning towards the door. No reply. "Izuku, open the door," I demanded, a bit more loudly. No reply. "Open the frick-fracking door, you idiot," I yelled. No reply. I felt my eyes twitching more visibly. Akari and the others stepped back and I lifted up my foot. I kicked the door, sending it flying off its hinges. It landed in the room with a loud thud, and I stomped into the quiet, dark room. It was quite cold in there, I have to say. Izuku was in the corner, hugging his knees and his head buried in between his arms. He slowly looked up at me and I was shocked. He had looked pale and hurt when he had returned, wet from the rain that night. However, now he seems much worse, if that was even possible. Izuku had bags under his eyes dull. He no longer had the bright glimmer that I used to admire so much. His eyes seemed so empty. The usual sassy expression he wore was nowhere to be found, only to be replaced with one that was stripped of any emotion. His lips were dry and cracked. The pink hue that had once tinted his lips had turned a dull purple. Izuku seemed very thin as well. I could see his bones and the color was drained from him. His hands were abnormally cold, shaking as he tried to push me away. His arms shook as he struggled against my grasp. I forced him to look at me. Every single bit of color was gone. Every single drop of life was sucked away from him. He looked like a living corpse. Nothing like the Izuku I used to know. "Go away," Izuku said. His voice was hoarse and it barely came out. It also sounded very strained. "Izuku, please," I cried, tears falling down my face. I held onto his shoulders tightly. "Please, sir, just please, I can't bear to see you go on like this. Go away, leave me alone," Izuku choked out. He looked away from me. "I don't want to talk to you right now." I frowned but forced him to look at me again. He stared lifelessly at me and I stared into his empty eyes. It pained me to see him in this state. Before he could say something, I pulled him into a hug. Izuku stayed still for a while but he soon started hiccuping. Worried, I pulled away, only to see him crying again. Tears streamed down his face and he quickly tried to wipe them away. I grabbed his hands and pulled him into another hug. This time, the others joined in and wrapped themselves around Izuku. Izuku cried harder, hugging back. Sorry, Izuku," Masako said softly, patting his hair. "We're all sorry, and we are all worried. Everyone, even Bakugo, was worried about you," Keiko said. "Please, we won't force you to do anything you're not comfortable with for now, but please, at least eat something." You quickly gave Izuku a tray of food and Izuku stared blankly at the tray for a while before hesitantly lifting a spoon. We all stared at him as he started eating, observing him so that he doesn't leave a single piece of rice left. Izu looked up at us after finishing his food. He didn't say anything, he simply stared at us. "We're sorry," I said. "It's fine. It couldn't have been helped," Izuku replied, looking away. Perhaps it was fated to be that way, but Izuku paused, taking in a few breaths before he turned his gaze back towards us. He gave us a bitter, pained smile, another stream of tears rolling down his face. "I would have appreciated it if you guys were the first one to tell me." Izuku's POV. I sat quietly as the Kitsuns explained in detail about my identity. Everything that the keeper had said was true. I ended my foster parents. I was the cause of their death. "I guess I'm really not fit to be a hero," I said, bitterly chuckling at my words. "Well, so if what you said is true, the keeper may be testing me. Analyzing my mental and emotional health, right?" "That's what I think," Akari said, scratching his cheek. "Most of us Kitsuns usually have no emotions until we meet our fated group. But you're different. You've lived with humans for as long as you could remember, so it's only natural that you have emotions too." "I see." I sighed again. "What's this thing about your fated group, anyways? You guys kept talking about that." By fated group I mean the group we are assigned to. A fated group is assigned a certain world to protect and watch over. Keed explained. "We are a fated group and we were assigned this world." She gestured towards herself and the other Kitsuns. They all nodded and I glanced between each of them. "But we are missing our final member," Akari butted in. "Unlike every other group, we were missing our main member, and that's me," I mumbled, finishing Akari's sentence. She nodded subtly. The atmosphere tensed a bit and I sighed. I laughed, making all the Kitsuns look at me weirdly. "Are you okay?" you asked. "You're not going insane, are you?" "Of course not." I chuckled. I waved my hands. "Well, I'm still very shocked and I'll need some time before I can accept the fact, but..." I paused for a while, recollecting all the events that I've been through. I've been bullied, hurt, and my parents died because of me. Everyone I cared for all died because of me. But thinking about all those people who supported me, I just felt like I have to make them proud. Just so their death wasn't in vain. You know, I thought over all my actions during the time I locked myself inside. I mumbled. "I finally know why I haven't been able to improve. All I do is cry," If something goes wrong, I cry. When someone insults me, I cry. Even the smallest things make me cry. I sighed, thinking back to my middle school years. I always get discouraged, then blame others and never try to change. Izuku, don't blame yourself for this dash. No, listen to me. I interrupted Akari. I finally understand. I've been given another chance to get stronger and redeem myself. I'll do whatever I can to change. I'll love to be a part of your team. I gave the Kitsuns a determined smile and they smiled back, hugging me as they welcomed me as their final member. So, what exactly do you do as guardians? I asked once we separated from the hug. We protect this world from complete chaos for a certain amount of time. During that time, we are to help everyone find the meaning of life and achieve their goals. We are also supposed to study on how they act, so we probably won't have much time to goof around like we used to, Keed explained. So, you're basically doing hero work? I said, making the Kitsuns nod. Then let's get to it. I won't let that keeper get his way. The Kitsuns laughed and hugged me another time, all of them saying how concerned they were. Oh, and I wanted to ask about that letter you guys left me. I said. It was so terribly written. I suspected that it wasn't true, but I couldn't find you guys anywhere. I was so heartbroken, you know? I'm sorry. I just couldn't find a proper way to excuse our disappearance. Kari said. We were originally leaving for a short vacation. Also so that we could find some evidence on your sickness and race. Seems like our keeper told you before we could. It's fine, I replied, laughing. Just, please don't leave me like that next time. Time skip. After all the nice conversations and the clearing out of our misunderstandings, I was greeted by Eri and some of the other teachers. Kaken came to apologize to me, and when I asked why, he told me that Akari threatened him. Well, not only Akari but Mr. Aizawa as well. I never thought that I'd be hearing Kaken apologize to me. I smirked, feeling the need to tease him. But, I won't accept your apology. Kaken looked at me in fury, his eyes narrowing as he opened his mouth to yell. I snickered as I gave him the same mocking look that he used to give me in middle school. To be honest, I don't really care about the whole bullying thing anymore. What happened in the past is not worth dwelling over, in my opinion. But it was quite funny to see his reaction. If you want me to listen, get on your knees and beg. You get the reference? I snickered, pointing to the floor. Kaken? Don't you want to apologize? Kaken growled, glaring at me. He then turned his glare at the floor but reluctantly kneeled in front of me. I heard several gasps of surprise from around us, several murmurs as well. I was pretty surprised as well. I felt my eyes widening at the sight. Ooh, to think that I got to see the all-might Kaken bow down to me. I teased. I'm sorry. Kaken mumbled. What did you say? I asked, pretending that I couldn't hear him. I cupped my ear. I'm sorry. What? I said I'm sorry, you dumb asterisk. Kaken yelled, his face red. Well, I'll accept your apology since you seem so desperate. I chuckled, signaling for Kaken to stand up. But you know, Kaken, I would have accepted your apology even if you hadn't kneeled. I gave him a small smile. He stared at me in a mix of shock and embarrassment, also some confusion. I suppose he didn't expect me to smile at him like that. Wait, what? He yelled. Wait. I started running, laughing as he screamed behind me. But thanks for the blackmail material, Kaken. I laughed, waving my phone. I looked back just in time to see the hilarious look on his face. I smirked as I looked at the video on my phone. Maybe this won't be so bad after all. Izuku's POV. I smiled as I walked down the hallways of UA, talking with Akari and Akari. They were in their human forms currently. It's been quite a few years since all the weird commotion. I've officially become a member of Akari's guardian group. It did take a while to convince that salty keeper of theirs to let me. The Kitsuns and I have started working as pro-heroes, and although we went through many hardships, we managed to become the #1 hero group. However, I will admit that it was very worth it. I've been feeling much better as well, more happy. I feel like I actually belong. Everything was so much better these days. Zidu. I shook my head as Akari shook me violently. Were you even listening? Sorry about that. I was thinking about something else. I laughed, giving Akari an apologetic nod. Akari glared at me, kicking me right underneath my knees. She stuck out her tongue as I grasped my knee in pain. I pouted, looking up at her. You deserved it, ding-dong. Akari huffed, walking off to the classroom. I quickly got up as I followed her. Akari laughed at me, making fun of how I got beat by Akari. Akari soon smacked him due to him being too loud. I laughed at him too, eye for an eye. Frick you. Akari muttered. Frick you too. I laughed. We stared at each other for a while, then we burst into an unexplainable fit of laughter. You guys are so childish. Bird groan. Move, you're blocking the way. Ah, hello Aizawa-san. You're still in that same sleeping bag I see, I said. So, what are we doing today? Aizawa-san turned to look at me, looked away, then looked back at me. He stared at me for who knows how long before shrugging and scooting away. He stopped, then came back towards us, handing us a sheet of paper. As the number 1 hero group, I expect that you know how to teach several kids. Aizawa-san said, you're going to be taking on a class of new students. There's not much since this is going to be your first year teaching, only 10 students. Do well. With that, Aizawa-san continued his journey to his classroom. I was left dumbstruck at his words. Akari and Akari seemed shocked too. I didn't know we were teaching? I mumbled. Akari nodded, slowly taking the paper away from my hands. This class is really small though. Akari commented, snatching the paper away. We have some familiar names too. Soon, Akari and Akari got into a fight about who was going to teach first. I sighed, chuckling a bit as I watched the two brawl on the floor. I picked up the piece of paper, walking away, leaving the two Kitsuns to fight. Hey, young Midoriya. I'm assuming that you've been told that you'll be teaching this year? All Might said, approaching me. Of course, Dad told me. I said. All Might laughed at my little joke. I see. Well, I sure hope you don't blow up the classroom like last year. All Might said. I had a hard time fixing that. Cementos said, walking up to us. I looked away, feeling guilty about that. I let out a chuckle. I'll be sure not to do that this year, I said, starting my way to the classroom I was assigned to. Well, I'll see you guys later. The two pro heroes waved at me, and I happily skipped over to my classroom. Yu and Ko was already on their way. Man, I hate staying in my human form. Yu mumbled, stretching as I caught up to them. It takes up way too much of my stamina. Well, why don't you just drink one of the mana drinks you packed from our vacation a few weeks ago? I asked, referring to the energy drink that was specifically made for Kitsuns. It helps a lot. Meh, you shrugged. You's just too stupid to drink it? Ko mumbled, rolling his eyes. At this point his inner personality just shows. His brain cells can't process the strength of that drink. Hey, that's not true. Yu growled, wind starting to pick up around him. Ah, says you. Ko smirked. Tiny bits of dirt started to form in a circle around him. I watched in between, thinking about how much dust this would cause. I snapped my fingers, making the both of them stop and glare at me. Let me go. You snapped. You know I can't do that. I laughed. This ability comes in quite handy. The two Kitsuns glared at me. Just because you can restrain us and our powers doesn't make you any stronger, Broccoli. I heard Kahaku's voice from behind. Like for Dash. Why are you guys all standing out in the hall? Keed asked, a vein showing on his forehead as he popped his head out of the classroom. Class has already started and as teachers, you were supposed to be getting ready in this room 30 minutes ago. Oh crap. I gasped. I'm sorry, Keed. Sorry won't cut it. Everyone else was here, planning out our class plans today. Keed stomped on my foot. Just be glad that the students weren't here today to see your poor example. Oh, they aren't here? Takako asked, walking up behind us. That's odd. Just before Keed could open his mouth to explain, the intercom went off, explaining that some of the roads to UA have been cut off due to a villain attack, which might cause some students to be late. Yeah, what that thing just said. Keed huffed, pushing up his glasses. Anyways, Eri was here since an hour ago. And she's still a child. Oh, my precious Eri is in our class. I asked, bursting open the door. I saw Eri sitting in one of the desks near the window, her hair fluttering as the wind from outside blew into the classroom through the windows. She turned to look at me once she heard the loud slam of the door opening, smiling once we made eye contact. Eri. I hugged Eri before she could even finish her sentence. I missed you. Ni-chan, we saw each other a day ago. Eri laughed. I smiled sheepishly as I realized that what she said was correct. Every day honestly felt like years with all the stuff that we had to manage. Going to Kitsun meetings in the Kitsun realm, doing hero work in this world, and dealing with other problems. It was fun though. Undeniably fun. Anyways, I'm glad to have you in my class, I said, patting Eri's head. I'm happy too. Eri smiled. And Koda is going to be here too. I froze when I heard that name. Koda and I have been bonding recently after I showed him some cool tricks with water, but I still can't erase the memories of him running after me, threatening to punch me again. Ah, that child, I sighed. Well, I sure hope no other problematic children pops up. You're the one to talk. I turned around to see Koda, who seemed to be taller than me. Zuko-san, you can't lie that you haven't caused any trouble during your youth. That's true. I sighed, faking tears. I can't believe you two have grown up to bully me. You know how much time I spent babysitting you. Koda and Eri laughed at my awkward acting. We continued talking about some useless topics until the other children arrived at school. Halfway into the lesson, the door flung open, only to show my friends. Todoroki, Kaken, Uraraka, Mina, Momo, Denki-ida. Everyone was there, even the teachers and all the students. I looked back at my own students only to see them smiling and shooting confetti. All Might was holding a cake, walking closer to Kitsun's and I with a warm smile. Happy first anniversary of becoming pro-heroes. All Might said. We are truly blessed to have you, Izuku. You guys too. All Might said, turning to the Kitsuns. I have to thank you guys. Thank you, we truly appreciate you.